It's semi-final time in the New South Wales Premier Cricket 2020 finals, and we're down to just the four teams in both the, two teams each in the Thunder and Sixers conference. First up, it's going to be the semi-final in the Sixers conference between two local rivals that know each other very, very well. St George coming up against Sutherland. They played each other in day one of the Premier Grade competition yesterday at Hurstville Oval. Unfortunately, Mother Nature had the final say in that game, and they only got in about 25 or 30 overs. But hopefully, all we see is sun for this morning's game. We've seen the Sutherland team led up by their skipper, Steve Smith, and St George being following out as well, with Bhatia and Stapleton, the captain, making their way out into the middle of the SCG. Steve Green, former St George Quick and assistant coach at the Eastern Surds Cricket Club, is alongside me in the commentary box. Good morning to you, Steve. And should be a cracking contest between two sides where there'll be a little bit of feeling between them as local rivals, and obviously the spot in the final. And if whoever wins this game automatically gets into that kind of Champions League trophy kind of thing that's going to be happening in Adelaide later this year.
Yeah, morning Jack, morning all. Very, very true. These clubs don't like each other on the field. We've got Jake Wilson opening the bowling from this end, who was a former Saint and now a Sutherland player. And there's a couple in the St George team who used to play for Sutho, so they'll know each other very well. And should be a good contest. I'll try not to be too biased for my former club. But we always enjoyed playing Sutherland. There's always a battle.
Probably helps that the car trip was only about 15 or 20 minutes compared to if you had to go to Blacktown or Hawkesbury or some of the other clubs in the New South Wales Premier Cricket competition.
Yes, there's always a quick trip to Hurstville or Caringbah. So should be a good contest here today. Jake Wilson, he's got a bit of a knee problem, so it'd be interesting to see how he gets through the day if they do progress to the final. And as you said, it's a big stakes today. Finals cricket, there's nothing better. And so there'll be everything on the line, everything to play for today.
Yeah, so as Steve mentioned, Wilson will be bowling up first to Bhatia, who's been in good touch for St George in the short form of the game. So Sutherland finished fourth. They qualified with a nice win over Sydney in their last game. They chased down 198. With some handy laurelled innings after Steve Smith had hit a half century. Every game that Sutherland have won, interestingly enough, has been when they're chasing, so no surprise to see Smith win the toss and elect to field. And with a little bit of grass covering on that pitch and humidity out here in Sydney this morning, not too much for a breeze, there might just be a little bit of movement both through the air and off the pitch for the Sutherland seamers.
Yeah, I went and had a look at the wicket before the start of play, and it's a little bit in it. Bit of grass coverage. It's always good as a bowler to come out and see a bit of a green tinge to a deck, and it'll only get faster as the day goes on. So they should enjoy it.
So just a bit of a delay as Bhatia just checks the surroundings and looks at the Sutherland field that is quite aggressive, as you can probably understand. In the first few overs of a short form game, there is one fielder out at deep backward square leg. Also another fielder at that deep point region, which has become somewhat of a quite a popular position, particularly in the short form of the game, hasn't it, Steve, with that player that's situated right out on the boundary. Here's the first ball of the innings. Wilson in, pitch up, and a little bit of a way swing there as there's a bit of a mix-up. The throw goes to the wrong end, and thankfully for St George, Bhatia scrambles through for a single, and they're off the mark straight away. Very
encouraging, that first ball. Swung away nicely. He's just got to get this on line, and he could be in for a couple of wickets here. Almost a mix-up there between the Stapleton and Bhatia, but no damage done.
Already Steve Smith just having a chat to his captain, moving fielders, almost like a AFL skipper waving his hands around and moving players in and out. So he's not going to let this St George pair settle. Curtis Patterson, of course, the next man in, so his involvement will be just as probably influential as Steve Smith's is. He's been in some really good form in the Sheffield Shield competition with New South Wales, and obviously great for him to go back to his roots. A Hurstville-born boy playing for his local club, and love to guide them into the final. Obviously a nice little tune-up for when he takes part in the 8th edition of the Big Bash with the Sydney Thunder. Wilson in, this ball pitched up, swings in to the right hand and just works it onto the onside. No run there for Stapleton.
Interesting, he's only got a man at 45 instead of the regulation fine leg, so he won't want to err down the leg side because any touch on the ball will be 4.
Yeah, showing faith in your bowler, isn't it? When you put in a field placing like that. There is a fielder at deep square leg on the fence, pretty much where the dugout is, if you can imagine where the dugouts are in the 2020 competitions. This ball is short of length, just tucked off the hip, and they get through for a single. So Stapleton is off the mark, he goes to 1. Barty also has 1, so 3 balls gone, none for 2 St George after losing the toss and being sent in.
Ground looking a pitcher again today. Nothing better than coming to the cricket ground and watching a bit of cricket. I fear that those days are getting less and less. Coming here and watching a game of cricket. Seems that the Swans are taking over, but let's hope we get more Shield games back here as well.
I think your boys, the Roosters, are going to be playing a few home games here when 2019 rolls around. This ball is just pitched outside off stump and just gently swings away, and Barty are not interested in that.
Yeah, it's a shame to see the old girl next door get knocked down, but be interesting. I remember watching the Roosters here probably back in the 90s. I think we played a couple of games here, and it's be interesting that the angle where they put the ground as to how close you're actually going to be to the play. Hopefully they do the right thing and get as close as possible.
Wilson in, this ball leaves him outside the off stump, just pushes at that Barty, and this has been a really good first over from Jake Wilson. Again, probably just a little bit short for that swing to really help him, but he did get a bit of bounce, maybe just hit the seam. Didn't know too much about that Barty up, feeling for it.
Yeah, just a touch short there. I reckon he probably wanted another 6 or 8 inches further up, and he might have got the edge there.
Solid start. Back-to-back dot balls now, having just conceded the 2 runs in this first over. St George obviously knowing they need to battle the conditions here early. Wilson in, and he slashes at it away at this one, a wide one outside the off stump, and just didn't connect. Nice delivery to end the over for Wilson. Very good over as well, just a 2 from it. None for 2. Barty is 1 of 4, Stapleton 1 of 2 after Sutherland earlier won the toss and elected to field.
Bit of a crowd starting to roll in. A bit of noise out there at the moment. Walking down from the members' car park, I saw a few familiar faces that usually see at Hurstville, so it's good to see them come out and support the boys.
Steve, how much of an advantage do you think it is for these, whatever one of these 2 teams wins, how much is an advantage is it to play in this first game compared to the second game where you might only get an hour's rest, where these guys will probably get 3 or 4 hours rest?
Yeah, it's I suppose it all depends on the player, how they sort of manage themselves for the next couple of hours after whether they go out and have some lunch somewhere or whatnot, just to try and I always was back to back. I'd love to get them in and away, purely because you just get on a bit of a roll, sitting around, sort of the energy. You could lose a fair bit of energy, just thinking about the game and things like that.
Tom Pinson coming in, and first up, it's a play and a miss there by Stapleton, so he's coming in from the Randwick end of the ground. And he's been in some good form, Tom Pinson, both in the long form for Sutherland and also in this 2020 competition. You can see here, it's a really nice ball, just pitching and just leaving him a little bit slightly outside the off stump.
It's actually good to see him on his feet. Saw footage of the double header they played at Glen McGrath Oval, and he was going for a catch and ended up on his back over the fence. So it's good to see that he got no ill effect from that fall.
Comes in here and slashing this ball in the air. One bounce down to the man down at third man. It's Jamie Brown down there who does the fielding. They pick up a single, but Stapleton showing that he's willing to throw hands at, if he gets a little bit of width, particularly outside that off stump. So none for 3 into this second over. Run rate at 2.3. This is the first of 3 games. If you have just join the coverage. This is the Sixers conference final. So the winner of this goes to the Champions Tournament in Adelaide in March, I believe that competition is. This is really wide, and it will be called a wide, surely. Oh, that's a bit stiff, I think.
He's got away with that one, big time.
Let's see the replay here. See if it lands outside the lines.
Oh, that's a wide. Every day of the week, that's a wide.
Yeah, I'm sure Barty is probably wondering what he has to do to get a wide called, because that one, it certainly looked like.
I know he's only got little arms, but that's a wide.
So Pinson gets away with one. And comes to Barty, this one on the pad, and just lolls down the leg side, and they pick up a single. That should go down as leg byes. No, that's going to go as runs. So it's just got a little tickle on that one. So as I was saying, the winner of this goes to the Champions Tournament in March. So both the winners of the Sixers Conference Final, which is this game, and the Thunder Conference Final, which is between Sydney University and Penrith, will both go through. And then obviously the final will be taking place at 6:30 tonight. That Thunder Conference Final, 2:30 start here at the SCG. Pinson in wide, and he slashes this one beautifully all the way for 6. Into the first row of the ladies' stand here at the Sydney Cricket Grounds, and he really threw the kitchen sink behind that one. That raced off the willow. Stapleton goes to 8. The first big shot of the day. Steve Green and the St George boys go to none for 10.
That's a brilliant shot. He just leant back and just threw everything at it, and that King Sport bat has done the rest. Beautiful shot.
It's not easy to hit a cut shot for 6. It's almost as difficult as the cover drive for 6. That was an immaculate shot. He was almost kind of up on one leg there as he played. It showed the power and strength that the St George captain has. What will Pinson's reply be? Comes in, this is short down the leg side, and that will be a wide. So another one add to the total, and that one will have to be rebowled.
See, I've got more of a problem with that being a wide than the other one. Like, wasn't called. That's not too wide. I know the rule's been around for ages, but it's a bugbear as a former bowler. To see that, he's only missed it by, not much, and he's getting penalised for it. Rant over.
9 off this over. Pinson charges in, and this ball down the leg side. That'll be another wide, and not a bad ball really. That was kind of pitched on middle leg stump, and it was just a little bit of a swing at the end that just tailed it down the leg side. And what was starting off to be quite a respectable over in the last 3 balls has been 6 wide. So effectively 8 runs off the last legal delivery that's been bowled. So Pinson just looking to just resettle himself here and just try and get into a bit of a rhythm. Into Stapleton, who drives this one down the ground, and they'll get through for a single. Nice piece of fielding down the ground, keeps it just to 1. So that will end the over. So 11 coming from that first over there from Pinson. Stapleton goes to 9. Badia is 2. None for 13 after 2. That run rate up to 6.5, a bit more respectable than perhaps what we saw an over or so ago.
Yeah, things changed 2020 real quick. First over, Sutherland very happy with, and then the second one goes for 11. And it's probably, you'd say, back on level terms.
So Wilson's going to continue to bowl his second over. First one went for 2. Still a little bit of movement out there, but the St George batters looked a little bit more comfortable in that second over than he did the first. So Wilson left arm over the wicket, coming into the captain. Stapleton advances and just batters this one down the ground. Not timed, but picks up a single to go into double figures.
Yeah, not a good looking shot, but he'll take a single. We'll move on.
There's a few of those in 2020s. We even see it all the way in the pros as well, don't we? In the IPL and in internationals and the BBL, where there's players that kind of step away from their stumps or run at the bowler and hits high up on that sticker and just kind of dribbles away. You're probably going to accept those ones from time to time, as long as it doesn't mean you lose your wicket. Wilson in it, advancing and driving, or attempting to drive and beating the outside edge again there is Wilson. So Bhartiya's probably been the one that's just struggled a little bit with this natural away swing that Wilson's getting. Looked like he might have...
Oh, yeah, it's just decked off the seam a little bit. It's a really good ball.
Looked like he was holding the ball like right in the palm of his hand as well, just as a bit of a surprise delivery. So it's a good piece of bowling here by Wilson, just changing up his line, his length and his speed, which is a massive key in this shorter form of the game. Advancing and slapping this one out through a cover. That's an exquisite shot for 4. No way that one was going to be stopped, and that will be a huge confidence boost to Luke Bhartiya there. Just freed the arms and hammered it through cover for a boundary.
Yeah, great shot. Just, gives himself a little bit of room clearing that back leg. And straight through the covers. Great shot.
Speaking to Alex Blackwell, and I covered the Sydney Thunder WBBA game last Sunday, and she made an interesting point and said that in 2020 you pretty much can't do the same thing 2 or 3 balls in a row because the batters are just going to find you out. And this ball is lofted down the ground. It's holding up in the air. Smith going for it, and would have pulled off a magnificent catch if he did. He made plenty of ground, but it was just out of his grasp. They pick up a couple. I think he is okay. He just kind of nodded to his teammate there, but maybe just catching his breath.
He looks to be a bit winded. Slow to get up.
You can just see the way that bat handle kind of twisted in the hands there of Bhartiya. Shows a lot of guts and determination. There's a lot of fielders that just would have not even made an effort for that one, just would have let it bounce 2 or 3 meters away from them. So it's a magnificent fielder. We've seen him in his days with Australia. Some of those fantastic catches at slip earlier in his career, and even in the shorter form of the game, we see him in the outfield, where he's taken some nice catches, and he almost pulled off one here. So he's going to go all the way down to long off. Not sure how much of an influence you can have as a captain if you're 80 or 90 metres away from the action, but good on Smith to see him down there. Wilson in, this ball driven firmly and lofted down there, a couple of bounces, so maybe good captaincy by Smith to patrol himself down there. They just pick up the single, and that will end the over. So solid one there for, or one to come, sorry. It's been a solid over so far here for St George, 8 coming from it. Stapleton faces up here on 10. Wilson, 1 ball left in his second over. And this ball is crunched and almost brilliantly caught as well. Down there, it's dribbling down towards the boundary. Won't make the fence. Oh, far out. This is a treacherous little period for Jared Viviano. He leaps to his left and pulls a screamer and then almost takes his kneecap out with that dive.
What is going on out there? I think the ground's a little bit damp underneath, but the mistimed slide, I'd say, going for that ball.
You could hear the echoing of the from the crowd as well. He almost pulled it off. It was a gallant dive, and then the ball just seemed to just hold up in the outfit, as you mentioned, Steve. Probably pretty wet from all the rain we've had, and let's wait for it.
Whoop.
So they play the replay, and there's some bellowed laughs from some of the crowd that's come in, but regardless, he did pick up 2 runs off that last ball to Stapleton. So he goes to 12. Bhartiya's on 9. 1 for 23 after 3, so that run rate up to 7.7 and over. And we're going to see some spin for the first time today. Tom Doyle is going to come into the attack. They've got a couple of spin options. Dan Fallon's probably their most noted, the leg spinner for New South Wales that's been superb for them in this competition. 10 wickets has an economy rate of only 5.8, which is marvellous. So they're obviously going to hold him back a little bit and see what they can kind of get from some of their other bowlers and attempt to keep things tight. So a bit of a mid-pitch conference happening here for St George's. There just is a bit of delay. We've had a few of these so far this morning, Steve. We've only had 3 overs, and there seems to have been at least one kind of lengthy delay in each over.
I think it's got to do with the sight screen down that far end. I actually saw one of the fielders try and push it. I don't know.
It's not. We're not at a grade ground. I don't know if it really works like that. I did see them doing some maintenance on the sight screen in front of where we are at the MA Noble Bradman stand, or at the Paddington end of the ground. There was a guy that was precariously moving up that ladder that's attached to the side of it. So
well, they won't start play because of the white sheets behind the screen. So it'll have to be moved.
So anyway, positive start here from St George. That first over kind of slow, which is what you expect on a deck that's moving a little bit in the first over. The last 2 overs, Steve, they've played with an element of risk, but have been able to have a little bit of lady luck on their side to pick up a few boundaries.
Yeah, they've worked their way into it. First over, probably just a sider to see what the pitch was going to play like, and be interesting how they handle the spinners. Did watch Fallon's play against Eastern Suburbs in their last 2020, and I think he got 5 for then, and he bowled really well and tied them down. So it will be interesting to see how the Saints batters and batsmen handle the spin.
Yeah, so they've got Curtis Patterson, John O'Rose, Tom Engelbrecht, Nathan Ellis, Adam Watley, Peter Francis, Andrew Walsh, Tom Ortiz, who's been in great form with the ball, and Eric Denhatog with Mitch Gray, the 12th man. So plenty of batting in that middle to lower order. Obviously, Curtis Patterson probably the real linchpin in the top order for both Sutherland and St George. Sutherland will probably fancy their chance if they can move him cheaply. So it's still no movement as of yet. This is probably more beneficial to Sutherland than it is St George as a batsman. You're just starting to get your eye in, Steve, and then there's a 5 or 6 minute delay as now both the umpires come. Steve Smith's there, and Nick Stapleton is chatting with them. Not sure what's going on. This is the first time this has happened in this game. We haven't seen, obviously, the issue in the Shield cricket because of the red ball, but haven't really seen any movement of any of the SCG Trust staff at all. Have you, Steve, around the ground, which you would... Well, now there's 3 fielders that are going down.
I think they've all bundied off and gone home. I don't know why they're going to try and push the screen.
Yeah, I feel like in the professional setup at these grounds like the SCG and the WACA and Adelaide, they're pretty much it's kind of automated, isn't it? It's a machine. It's very, very hard. Would be very difficult, almost impossible to move it manually.
Well, you think they just give the button to the umpire?
Yeah, it would make the most sense, wouldn't it? So there's 3 Sutherland players that are doing some investigative work behind the sight screen.
The experts. Well, it's all right. We'll get it moving.
So they're down there. I think every guy, when it comes to something mechanical, is an expert, aren't they?
Oh, there was a bit of movement there.
Savage, if you have just joined us, 3 overs gone, none for 23 in this game. Barty is 9 off 10, Stapleton 12 from 8. That was after Sutherland won the toss, elected to bowl. And it's been a solid start by both sides. A few risky shots by St George early on, and were settling into a bit of a rhythm until this issue with the sight screen. So as you can probably see on the wider shot, there is some white sheets kind of adjacent to where the sight screen is. So that's the issue when you're playing with a white ball. That's obviously going to get caught in there pretty easily. And now I can hear some kind of engine motoring up, so I don't know if that's the sight screen that's being moved, but hopefully we can get this rectified as soon as possible.
I reckon it might be one of those little golf carts scooting around to try and get the problem sorted.
bizarre, isn't it? Because it's not as if this isn't the first over from this end. You could understand if it was the first over, but didn't have any concerns with from the first over. Perhaps the batters just maybe found it a bit difficult in that first over, and then decided, well, let's get that sight scope moved a little bit so the line of the ball coming from the bowler's hand is coming out of the black rather than the white.
Well, I think it's because he's bowling around the wicket, and with a right arm bowler, he'll be wider than what probably the line of the sight screen was. So yeah, just tell him to bowl over the wicket. Get on with it.
Exactly, mate. Come on, it can't be that hard.
Round the wicket's overrated.
So this is the Sixers conference final. St George up against Sutherland, and later today at 2:30 we have the Thunder conference final between Penrith and Sydney University, which should be a cracker, and the final at 6:30 between these two teams under lights. So that's going to be a good game as well. So we just wait for everything to hopefully get back in order very, very quickly. But Steve, must be exciting for some of these guys in the grade cricket scene that get an opportunity to play under lights. Obviously great to be able to play at the SCG, but that's must be a buzz to kind of get to play a night game at one of probably the most famous ground in New South Wales in terms of cricket.
Yeah, it'd be unbelievable. I've played a few games here, but not for points or for competitions. So any opportunity you get out here and have a game, you take it with both hands. It's even just walking out there before the toss, wandering around, just the history behind the ground, and they'd be loving it.
There's just a shot of the earlier attempted catch by Steve Smith. Thankfully, he didn't hurt himself too bad. I think he maybe got a little bit winded trying to leap down there, and then we had kind of some licorice all sorts of Jared Viviano, who put down a catch at mid-on, leaping to his left, and then was lucky not to get seriously injured when he slid down the ground. This is that attempted catch by Viviano, leaping almost John Dyson-like there to try and pick that up in his left mitt, but wasn't able to, and then thankfully didn't get an injury, because we've seen that happen before. I remember it was the 2002-03 Ashes, Steve. We saw Simon Jones up in Brisbane dislocate his kneecap doing that, so it's probably one of the banes of existence for outfielders on grounds when that kind of thing does happen.
Yeah, you get a bit of a wet spot on the ground and you don't slide like you usually think you're going to, and then that's where the injuries happen. We've got just down in front of us here, we've got Roy Formica speaking to, I think, someone from the ground staff about the sight screens. But and the body language tells me that it's not very favourable at the moment.
Yeah, well, it kind of is a bit bizarre. It's not as if this is the first game in the summer and the sight screens haven't been used. We've had a couple of Sheffield Shield games here that we've done with the guys from Bar TV, and there was a tour match here between the Cricket Australia 11 and India. And those sight screens are moving fine regularly as well. When you think of a Shield game when there's 96 overs in a day, those things are moving on the runners fairly regularly. So unless it's broken perhaps or something like that, which really just does throw the whole day kind of into disarray, as one of the ground staff, and as you mentioned, Roy Formica going out to the middle to converse with the umpires.
Well, it's not something you'd expect to happen on a ground like this. Trouble with the sight screens. You expect it at a normal grade ground, something like that, like the wheels don't turn, or. But yeah, they're not going down there, so that's not a good sign. Maybe the only other option would be to take that sheet down and just have the seats in the background. But yeah, they've got to do something. This is getting a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's been a big delay. Initially, we thought it might just be because there are issues with the sight screen that can't be helped sometimes, and you even seen international games where games can get held up for maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes as different things happen. I think in the Test match yesterday, Pat Cummins was getting a bit ferocious at some of the patrons that were standing up and walking behind the sight screen as the bowler was coming in and different things. But you don't expect a delay this long. This is probably, we're getting close to 10 minutes now for this delay, so it's quite significant. And on a day like this where there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for that second game. I was speaking to Roy out in the middle, and we plan on trying to film that coin toss for you before the Sydney Uni game against Penrith, but it's probably only max of half an hour in between if this game was finished on time. Well, at the moment, we're probably more looking like 2:15 or something, but it's not really happening. So there's Peter Sarukis down there, who's just doing a bit of a dance and a jig and having a bit of laugh with one of his Sutherland teammates, Daniel Rickson. He's enjoying himself, and it's probably too early in the day for players to be sitting down. Often you see that. If we're playing park cricket, there might be 3 or 4 guys. I know whenever you lose a ball and you're playing park cricket, Steve, that's normally an excuse, but there's the only guys that are on the ground are the ones that are doing stretches and different things like that at the moment.
Well, they're not really stretching, let's be honest. It's to hide the fact that they want to sit down and we'll just roll around a little bit and it looks like we're doing something. It's an old bowler's trick.
Probably something that you tried throughout your career?
Never. So I knew if I went down I wouldn't get back up.
Yeah. Sounds it right. So here's 3 more of the ground staff that are going down there. And we'll see if this issue can be rectified, but at the moment it's almost no disrespect to anyone that's working here. I'm sure they are working their backsides off to make sure this issue is fixed, but it's pretty farcical, isn't it, that it's probably going to be a 15-minute delay by the time it is fixed, and that's the best case scenario. But if you have just recently joined the coverage, we're just having a bit of a delay due to an issue with the sight screen at the Randwick end of the ground. Sutherland won the toss earlier today. Their captain Steve Smith sent St George in. None for 23 from 3 overs at the moment, with Barty on 9 and Stapleton 12. And Tom Doyle was about to start to bowl, but then as soon as they realised that he was bowling right arm around the wicket, he was going to be coming right out of that white blanket there, and that's not a good look. And maybe they're actually looking like they're just going to try and take the sheet away now. I think they've given up on trying to get the sight screen to move and trying to move that white sheet, but there's a fair bit of it.
That's not going to take a short time to move, I don't think.
Well, there's a few Sutherland players up in the grandstand now that are moving it across. So I guess they probably only need to move it across to where that orange tractor is for it to get it out the line of view. But it's obviously been some kind of malfunctioning with that sight screen. It's just not going to be moving for us.
I wish they'd hurry up. This music is not to my liking.
No. It's a little bit like we're at a Big Bash game, isn't it?
To reach for a bottle of water soon.
So, as we wait for this to hopefully get resolved quickly, scorecard reads 9 for 23. It is Luke Bhatia is on 9 of 10, and that Stapleton is 12 of 8. So, pretty good performance so far by them. The run rate's 7.7 runs per over. This is almost going to be like starting from scratch for the batsmen once they get in again. This is worse than a drinks break. This is looking to turn out to be like you've just gone for tea or something. That's normally the 20-minute break.
Yeah, well, they're just getting into a rhythm, so they're going to have to start again and work their way back into it. And it's probably going to cost them an over or so to wind back up.
Well, Southern must be stoked that they won the toss and decided to bowl first. So Sutherland just, I guess, not that it's cold here, but just trying to keep warm. We've seen a few players doing stretches and the like, and well, there's not a whole lot the St George batters can really do. Nick Stapleton out there is probably just trying to find out if there's going to be any chance of play resuming, and then you can just see the umpire holding up the ball to see if it still is in the line of that white tarpaulin that's up there. And a few people have commented on the live stream watching on the Cricket New South Wales Facebook page that why didn't they use black, and it's a pretty good point of view. And there's some sarcastic round of applause from some of the fans that here at the SCG as it finally looks like something might be happening.
Now they're going to take the extra bit above the seating down as well. Surely that's going to be in the eye line of the batsman.
Definitely, yeah. I think all of that area has to go, at least until that little entry point where that tractor is in the middle area, that entrance into the underground of the SCG. At least move it off until that centre spot, but not looking too good at the moment. It's one of the Sutherland players that's down there, just having a bit of a playtime with child. So everything's happening here at the moment.
DJ's mixed it up. Bit of Franz Ferdinand. That's better.
That's more to your liking, isn't it, Steve?
Must be listening to us.
Yeah, well, they've had a chance to play a fair few songs because this delay has been extensive. Point of view of the umpires, Steve, are we still going to see a 20-over game despite this delay?
I was just thinking that surely we've got enough time up our sleeves to have the full 20.
Because I think even that second game, if it was to start at 2:30, 3 hours for a 2020 game, that still gives them an hour of wiggle room before the final at 6:30, and they have half an hour of wiggle room between this game finishing and the second game starting. So, and I guess I don't know what the rules are in terms of the toss. You probably know better than me, but surely the toss doesn't necessarily have to happen right out in the pitch. They can do it behind the change rooms or something like that, as long as the players know what they're doing and the umpires are there and team sheets are passed and this and that. It should be fine.
Yeah, I think just take it back of the sheds and toss the coin and get on with it. It's amazing that this is taking so long.
It's just, yeah, it looks like they're kind of getting it down now, but it's really remarkable. I'm not really sure what the purpose of those sheets are either, particularly at a cricket ground having cream-coloured sheets. I think even when you're playing in the longer form, and that dark red would still be difficult to pick up at times, but maybe they put that there as a way of kind of using it as a second sight screen or something, but it's certainly caused a lot of issues for this game so far.
Well, I think it's done right around the world now that the batsmen are that precious that they need nothing behind the bowler's arm.
He's teeing off already.
But yeah, I mean, if the sight screens are moving correctly, yeah, I suppose it's from, when the test is on or there's a crowd behind the sight screen, you get the odd guy that doesn't know what's going on and he's here for the free booze, just wanders off and gets in the eye line of the batsman. So I think that's purely to give the batsman no excuse to complain about not being able to see the ball.
Well, I'll take this chance for delay just to anyone that is watching on the live stream on the Cricket New South Wales Facebook page. If you've got any questions for Steve or I, or any predictions for how you think this game is going to go, I'd love you just to post a comment in there and join the conversation. There's already a fair few people chatting in there and tagging mates and different things, which is great to see. So I hope you are enjoying the coverage as much as you can, watching a sight screen not be moved and a white tarpaulin trying to be ripped down off its hinges, so to speak. Still a couple of ground stuff. I think that's Roy Famika who's up there still, just maybe trying to give some instructions to some of the ground staff, or at least some of the workers here at the SCG, of what they want and what they need for this game to continue. It was, yeah, very, very bizarre scenes, I'd have to say. They're playing some Pharrell Williams for you now, Steve. Does that make your heart happy?
I can tolerate it.
Well, it's pretty much the only thing that is keeping us excited at the moment, because this delay is probably heading closer to half an hour at the moment, and they've made some inroads. But the bad news is that the workmen that were moving stuff have stopped and they've disappeared, which is never a good sign. So, yeah, that isn't great.
Well, you've got to hope that they're behind that that sheet on that level of seating, moving stuff around to get it down. Otherwise, it's we're going to be here for a while.
Peter Sarukis is down at the sight screen down at our end, just having a little bit of a look and manoeuvre to see what goes into moving these electronic sight screens. So it's just a shame that this has kind of derailed this game. Like, well and truly, it was kind of a novelty at first, and then it was a little bit annoying, and now it's starting to get quite frustrating, not just for us, Steve. It's more so for the players and the fans, and no doubt the people watching on the live stream as well.
He's given up. Couldn't find a button to press, so that's enough.
So Sutherland players all just congregating around the wicket, and the batters, or at least both of them, have walked off the field, or actually staying inside the boundary rope. What would be the rule with that, Steve, if the batter's allowed to cross the boundary rope? Well, one of them has, so...
There's your answer. Surely common sense prevails and they can go and sit down. And
with a delay like this.
Yeah.
Question from Jesse Spanderman. Is Steve Smith captain? Yep, he's the captain of the Sutherland team today. So he won the toss a little bit earlier on this morning and elected to field first. All of Sutherland's wins have come when they've been batting second as well. They beat Sydney in the quarterfinal, chasing down 199 in that game. They beat Manly earlier in the season, that big game out there in the Northern Beaches, where Steve Smith was signing autographs for what it seemed like an eternity, as well as spending some time with the Manly side, and just doing some really good things there. So,
well, not if you read the Telegraph.
Oh yeah, but I think we'll save our judgment for that paper. Sutherland's wins in this tournament have been, they beat Manly Warringah by 4 wickets, North Sydney by 9 wickets, Eastern Suburbs by 9 wickets, and Sydney by 4 wickets. So they were in the Sixers conference. They finished 4th with a 3-1 record, and they beat Sutherland in the Sydney in the quarterfinal last week. Whereas St George, they recorded wins over Greater Illawarra by 4 wickets against Manly. They beat Sutherland in the earlier contest where they met. They beat them by 55 runs. Stapleton made 50 in that knock, and Tom Ortiz took 4 for 30. Then won by 8 wickets against Mossman, and in a thriller last game, beat Randwick Petersham by 6 runs with Bartia, who's opening the batting, taking 4 for 26. Tom Ortiz took 3 for 14, so that was a cracking game there. When you think some of the players that the Randwick Petersham have, obviously David Warner, the leading run scorer in this 2020 tournament, but also Dan Sams, who's played with the Sydney Sixers contract to the Sydney Thunder and played for New South Wales in both one day and Sheffield Shield cricket. His brother Anthony Sams, a hard-hitting wicketkeeper batsman. Jason Sanger's contracted them as well, so a lot of quality. Got a message from Keegan Pillay. Is Stephen Green opening the bowling today? Would you like to reply to that, Steve?
I know Keegan. I played cricket with his brother for a very long time. Hello, Keegan. We'll leave it there.
A few other questions. People asking where Steve Smith will be batting today. Well, more than likely will be batting at 3. That's where he's batted in the last couple of games. But that is really just all conjecture at the moment. So you can see that the workers just trying to pull that, almost looks like they've got a black sheet there that they're trying to put over the top. But Sutherland, they're not resting on their laurels. We just see Peter Sarukas just be sitting in the members' grandstand before, but he's making his way back out onto the playing field. But you can see Tom Doyle just trying to warm himself up and bowling to some of the Sutherland players, and players are getting their equipment back on, so it makes you think that this farcical delay might have finally reached its peak and we might actually be getting some cricket.
Thank goodness for that.
So Doyle has the ball. He's at the Randwick end of the ground. He's going to be bowling right arm around the wicket, and Bartia is on 9. He's going to be facing up. He's faced 10 balls, Stapleton 12 from 8, but probably feels like these batters are starting out from ball 1 again, because it's probably been, 25, 30 minutes since this delay started, so they haven't seen action for a while. So we need to go to the practice nets and just have some of the St George seamers bowl at you, I reckon, just to kind of keep you in tune and make sure you're keeping your eye in. This ball just tucked onto the onside, so first ball just dealt with rather comfortably there by Bardia. So Doyle trundles in again, thrown up and back and cutting this ball over the top. That's a good shot. Finds open and green pastures out in the deep in that cover region, and they'll come back for a couple. Everything's happening here. This game is only 20 balls old, and there's all kinds of things that have happened here. We've seen a couple of catches put down, players falling over themselves, a sight screen malfunctioning, half an hour delay. What else is going to happen? Back and cutting this one through fine leg for a single. So that last one going down as bias, so none for 26. Stapleton is on 12. He faces up here to Doyle. He's back and he's cutting forcefully, but straight to point. Sarukas in behind that one. Ball just tightening things here. 3 from this over, only 2 from the bat. Loops this one up and looking to cut outside the off stump, and again beaten is Stapleton. So loops this one. It takes he just brushes the pad there as it balloons onto the offside. A very good first over there for Doyle. Finishes with 3 consecutive dots. 3 from it, just 2 from the bat though. 4 overs gone, none for 26. Stapleton 12. Bardier's on 11.
Well, there's that over we discussed earlier. Batsmen have to refocus and get back onto the job. And so that's probably worked in Sutherland's favour.
So Tom Pinson's going to swap ends, and he's going to be bowling here from the Pangton end of the ground. So Pinson's going to come over the wicket here and get a chance to bowl at Bardia. This ball strikes him on the pad, but that's going down leg side, and they will. Well, Bardia was probably coasting in second gear there for a while.
Good bit of fielding. Didn't expect to be getting the ball down his end. Comfortable single in the end. Just tried to play that 2 square.
So good start first up here for Pinson, who's into his second over. He's taken for 11 that first one. A bit of a wider one and playing a miss outside the off stump by Stapleton. Just trying to free the arms.
Seemed to zing through quite nicely.
Comes this ball and he tries this play straight down the line and try and thump that to Stapleton, but it's unable to connect. So this delay is, I wouldn't say it's wreaked havoc with St George, but it's really struggling to get their eyes back in. This is the second over back after we couldn't get the sight screen moving, and Stapleton 12 and Bardia 11 both playing and missing it a few balls now.
Yeah, so since the break there's been 9 balls and 3 runs scored, so they need to just get back to basics and see ball, hit ball.
Pinson comes in, he hammers this one over the top to Stapleton, not right in the middle, but manages to find the gap out in the deep, and they pick up a couple. So Stapleton goes back to a run and ball. He's on 14, and 2 balls left in this 5th over, none for 29. Bouncer down the leg side, tries to try and get some bat on this one, about shoulder height. Good delivery there from Pinson. It's had plenty of zip behind that last delivery, and Stapleton unable to cash in.
Lucky to get away with that one, I think. Almost over his head.
It's twice I've seen Pinson being able to get away with a couple that could have been adjudged a wide. So Pinson continuing over the wicket with this last ball. The over, Stapleton advances, and this is going to be run out. That's remarkable. Hammering into the foot to Pinson, and Bardia was stranded outside his crease, and this game is crazy at the moment. We've only had 5 overs, 1 for 29. Bardia run out off the foot of Tom Pinson. He departs, and Sutherland get there first.
There's not many other ways that you'd hate getting out like that. That's he's just lifted his leg to get out of the way. He was just too slow.
Wow.
But very unlucky. Unlucky to get out like that. But he's got to go. And that sees Curtis Patterson walking to the crease.
There's nothing you can really do about that as a batsman, is there? Because if you aren't out of your ground, you're probably doing the wrong thing because you haven't been backing up as the non-striker, and it's probably hard enough to cop that when it comes off a couple of stray fingers. But when something like that happens, it's almost like a fluke. But Vincent won't be complaining. Neither will Sutherland. They get the breakthrough they've wanted, and they've pretty much had things all their own way in this first 5 overs.
Now we've got a new man looking to start again, so it's all favouring Sutherland at the moment.
So it'll be Curtis Patterson on strike, the New South Wales top order batsman. And we're going to see Doyle again. So he doesn't muck around. Right arm around the wicket. Patterson, the left-hander, just tucks that off the hip to square leg. And tucks this one down to mid-on. They're going to take a shot at the stumps. There's Smith, but this hits the corner of the square and bounces up. But Patterson was probably going to be home fairly comfortable in the end, so he gets off the mark to start. This ball lofted down the ground, getting underneath it is Smith and taking the catch. And so the second wicket falls, and now the captain Stapleton goes, trying to just elevate that run rate and trying to smack that down the ground. And that was easy pickings for the Sutherland captain that got underneath that and takes the catch. Second wicket falls, 2 for 30 in the 6th over.
Sutherland right on top now. Just seemed to hold up a bit. And Smith doesn't drop those ones. Gets into position nice and early and just pouches it.
Quality outfielder is Steve Smith. It's pretty much was a dolly in the end. Looking like he was trying to take this one over mid-wicket and didn't really eventuate. Just went straight up in the sky and don't think he even really made its way outside the inner circle either. So just not got onto there by the captain Stapleton. He goes. So John O'Rose joins Curtis Patterson out the middle, and now there's 2 new batsmen. Sutherland St George 2 for 30 now in the 6th over. So Doyle continues. Patterson on strike now, and he tucks this one off his hip out to mid-wicket for a single. He really becomes the key now, doesn't he, Steve Curtis Patterson? If he can build an innings, he's a player that can really elevate the run rate, albeit with classical shots, and they need to just try and build a partnership here.
Yeah, definitely. He has to be here for at least another 10 overs to give St George a chance of getting a decent total. So Doyle will get his first opportunity to bowl here at John O'Rose. Wickets have fallen. Bardia run out Pinson for 11. Just eases this one down to long on for a single. And then we just saw the wicket of the captain for St George, Nick Stapleton. Was caught Smith off the bowling of Doyle. So he's got 1 for 5. Bardia 11 and Stapleton 14. The batters dismiss. Back and cutting in the air. Would have been a magnificent catch if he could have got there, but just looks like it yorked him as he was going down there. The fielder out in the deep. They pick up a couple. Well, in the over, I think it might have even been Austin Waugh out there at point. It made a gallant dive, and it was a risky shot. It was in the air for a long time. He gets away with it. Patterson picks up a wicket, and 5 coming from it. 2 for 34 after 6. And looks like we're going to see Dan Fallon's bowl his right arm leg spin. Be too harsh to say he probably should have taken that.
Looked like a pretty difficult chance. Kind of seemed to be going on a lower trajectory. As a bowler, you probably always want those ones taken, don't you?
Yeah,
but yeah, it was touch and go. 50-50 chance, I think, there for Waugh. He maybe picked it up a touch late, but it was kind of dropping as well, which is Always a difficult one to catch. So Smith is giving a few instructions to his fielders here as Dan Fallon's going to be getting a chance to bowl. He's been in magnificent form, been the best with the ball for Sutherland in this tournament. 10 wickets at just 11.5, a Connie rate of only 5.8. Took a 4-wicket haul against Eastern Sobers in their round 6 game, which qualified them for the finals. Here comes Fallon's thrown up, and bat and pad defending that one is Rose. This ball just eased out into the offside. Nice piece of fielding there. Back and pushing this one, but again straight to points. So 3 dot balls in a row. Good start here by Fallon's. He's really just been able to find his groove from ball 1. Paddle around the corner from Rose. That's smart cricket. Just using the pace and the line there as they think about a second, but wisely opt against it. So Rose gets down the non-strikers end, picks himself up a single. Smith again just making some field adjustments here. Fallon's just waiting to get everything right before he gets into his delivery stride. 4 balls have yielded just the 1 run, thrown up and worked across the line down to long on, just the single. So last ball of this first over here from Fallon's. This one thrown up and advancing and driving down the ground. There is Rose. And it'll just be another single. So he'll retain the strike. Rose moves to 3. Patterson's on 5. Just the 3 singles from that over. It's been miserly from Sutherland so far today. 7 overs gone, 2 for 37 after Sutherland won the toss and sent St George in, and just haven't been able to come up with really any big shots.
Yeah, no, he should have taken that. Yeah, so things have just slowed down a bit here. Not sure who you'd send in next if you were St George. Whether you go for a bit of a hitter to see if they can jag a couple of big overs out.
Forward and driving is Patterson, but straight to Fallon's, who does the fielding. Getting one through there, and they're just building more and more pressure with these dot balls. Doyle doing a really good job. This one swept around the corner. It's just going to beat the man at short fine leg, but coming around there and just keeping it to a single. Here's Biviano. Dorno into his 3rd over, has figures of 1 for 8 so far from 2.2 overs, so he's done a really good job of tying these St George batters down. This one just cross-batted out through cover. It's well-timed, but probably too well-timed. A bit of a misfield allows Patterson to get back for a couple. So Patterson now moves to 7 from 6 balls. This one back to the bowler, so no run off that delivery.
Bowling with a good pace on the ball here, Doyle. He's missed everything.
Come back for 3. It's a good piece of running there by Rose. He really wanted that, didn't he? And he just put the foot down and made a quick turn. So they pick up 3 byes, and that's in favour runs at this stage, with obviously runs being hard to come by. You get the feeling if St George can just build a bit of a partnership, even if they're only scoring at 5 or 6 and over, one of these guys can just really get their eye in and hit it. It just takes one big over, doesn't it, Steve? You get 12 or 15 off and over, and that run rate just starts to climb.
It's all momentum. Can be wrestled away in and over. And we've seen the break change the momentum of the game already. St George looked to be getting some runs real quick, and then we had the delay with the sight screen, and now Sutherland have pegged them back.
So pick up a single off the last ball of the over. Patterson 7 and Rose 5, 2 for 44 after 8. This partnership is worth 14, so they've occupied some time out the crease and getting a few runs here and there. That run rate, though, is probably the cause of concern for St George. Only 5.5 and over, but still plenty of overs left. Only 8 overs gone. So Fallon's to continue. His first over went for 3. In he goes, and this ball punched square the wicket by Rose. Well fielded at point. Another dot ball.
That'd annoy Jono Rose there. 2 metres either side of the fielder there. He's got at least one.
Fallon's in, a little bit of a wider one that spins away from the right-hander. He's been miserly in this form, Dan Fallon's, as he gets more experience at first-class level, and no doubt bringing those skills back to when he plays for Sutherland. It's a short, it's wide, and he misses out again. Maybe just threw a bit of a quicker one in that delivery.
Seemed to bounce a little bit more as well. Pressure's building.
3 dot balls in a row here, as Curtis Patterson maybe just gives some wise words of encouragement there to Rose. This one thrown up, he drives, but into the ground and straight to Smith at short cover. So this has been brilliant bowling. The spinners collectively have bowled 4.4 overs for 14, which is almost unheard of in 2020 cricket. 2 balls left. Fallon's into Rose, who looks to sweep this one. It's bobbled up off the gloves, and it will be another dot ball. So he's just trying to change his stance up and change his shots. He's trying things, is Rose, but just can't connect, at least in this over. Fallon's in, that's well wide. That will be a wide. So maybe just try to put a bit more revs on that one and really make it rip, but it was well wide, and so another run added to the total. Fallon's into Rose, who advances, and side edges onto the toe, I think there. Really no from Fallon's, just the 1 run coming from it. He's got 2 overs for just 4. And they have really just turned the screws now. Sutherland 9 overs gone, 2 for 45. Rose 5 from 15. Patterson 7 from 8. That run rate 5 and over.
Just tried to hit it too hard, that last one. And as the dots build up, the frustration creeps into the batsman, and everything tightens up, and you want to hit it harder, and then you lose your shape. So, recipe for disaster.
So Doyle in, slaps straight back at him, takes the deflection off the hands. So he's rolling with a hot hand, Steve Smith. He's not taking Doyle off and saving him for later. He realised that there's no runs being scored anyway, so may as well bowl him out his 4 overs. Into his last over now, he has 1 for 11. Thrown off, and this one just over the top of cover. Pierces the gap out in the deep, and it will just be cut off inside. And Austin Waugh out there helping out. Bit of a relay throw, and Steve Smith helps out, and they pick up 3 there. So Patterson trying to get that scoreboard ticking over, goes to a runnable 10, 2 for 48.
Good bit of fielding there by all 3 players involved. Made the batsmen earn their runs.
This ball just tucked out onto the onside. They pick up a single, so Rose doing a good job of getting down the other end. And I guess when you're struggling to score runs, that's probably the best thing to do, is just try and pick up the singles and maybe let Curtis Patterson score the lion's share of these runs in the partnership. Doyle in, this ball swept high and Hanson. This Saruka's coming around. He won't get that though. It goes all the way for 6. Clears the rope by about 2 metres. And that's a nice strike by Patterson. Didn't try and hit it too hard, just swept with the line of the ball. And he picks up a big 6 there at 2:55. Patterson moves to 16.
That just takes a bit of pressure off there. Nice shot. And with the ropes being in, it's 6.
This ball slapped down the ground by Patterson. Follows up the big shot with a single. So it's been a really good over for St George. 11 coming from it, and still the 1 delivery remaining. Run rate is up to 5.7 now after it had dipped to as low as 5. Let's see what Jono Rose can do as Doyle trundles in, thrown up, and he drives this one down to long on for a single. He'll retain the strike, 12 coming from it. But even with that, Doyle still finishes with great figures of 1 for 23 from 4, less than 6 and over. 10 overs gone. It is St George 2 for 57.
Almost a case of 1 over too many. As a captain, you want to try and get as much out of your bowlers as possible, and it's almost, do you go one more or have a spell, come back later? And that one, in hindsight, you got 12 off it, so it sort of eased the pressure on St George somewhat. Let's see if Fallons can drag it back in this over.
So Fallon's over the wicket here, and Rose drives. A couple of bounces down to long off, where the fielding is done by Tom Doyle. So just the 1 run there, 258, and Rose, after struggling, has now moved to 8 from 18. But Patterson probably the key here, 17 from 12. He played that nice sweep shot for 6 in the last over. Thrown up and looking to sweep across the line. Well wide of the leg stump there, but he had given himself room. Patterson just slaps into the pads. Advancing and hits this one really nicely in between the man at the deep, between long on and long off. And they're going to come back. Rose, it's going to be a tight one, but he gets home in the end. That's a good piece of running, putting the Sutherland fielders under a bit of pressure there, and Patterson managed to pick up 2 to retain the strike. He goes to 19, 2 for 60.
Yeah, very good piece of running there. Grant, this outfield is really slow. I've just seen a few balls roll out, and
this ball just laced over the top. 1 bounce into the fence for 4. Great shot. Gave him some width there, and Patterson just hammered that out through extra cover.
More room in the air. 1 bounce, 4.
Gets to the boundary quicker as well.
100%. Straight over cover.
Yeah, well, they're starting to find their groove now here, St George. Run rate up to 6. Fallon's in, this ball hammered across the line out to deep mid-wicket for the single. So Patterson's the man that's doing it, 24 from 16. If Rose was able to find his groove and hit a couple of boundaries and pick up the 1s and 2s, then could be looking pretty rosy for St George. Comes Fallon short and wide and cut, and it's just going to beat the man there as it's parried down. They pick up a single. Goes that really through the kitchen sink behind that one. Ends the over. 9 coming from it. 2 for 66 after 11 overs. That run rate is 6. Rose is 9 from 19. Patterson is 24 from 16, so Rose will retain the strike. Looks like Steve Smith's leg spin's going to come into play for the first time here. Well, yeah, you can say this afternoon because it is 10 minutes past 12 at the SCG.
Yes, this will be interesting. No doubt how people watching the telecast will be enjoying watching Smith do his work.
Turner of the ball was initially broke into the New South Wales team as a lower order batsman. I think he batted at 8 or 9 and old leg spin, and he's been doing it a lot for Sutherland in all formats. Comes in now. This is short, and this is slapped down the ground, cross-batted by Rose for a single. So it's obviously pinpointed that spin can probably play a pretty big part in at least keeping things tight, with the ball not coming onto the bat, the outfield being a bit slow.
Yeah, just take the pace off it, and the odd ball is bouncing a little bit more than normal.
This one driven down the ground just for the single. And now this is kind of an awkward shot there from Rose, wasn't it? He just kind of looped up off the high bit of the bat, but keeps it away from the field. So they've 3 consecutive singles to start this Steve Smith over. Smith in, swept well, but out in the deep. The fielding's done there by Fallons, and they can only get a single. So even when the ball is dropped a little bit short by some of the Sutherland bowlers, they still have that field in place to cut off the big shots. So Rose back on strike. He's 11. Patterson 26. 2 balls left. Smith in and dances in the track and works it off the hip. Gets it in a bit of space. They want to come back for a second. Rose turns around quickly. It's a good throw. Direct hit. But so the umpire says not only was safe, and that was a good piece of running again by Rose, who's looking to take on the arm of the Sutherland fielders, Steve.
Yeah, very good piece of cricket there. You see here, just turned it down the leg side. Great pick up and throw, but safely home.
So Rose starting to get a move on now. Goes to 13 from 22. Partnership now with 42, 2 for 72. St George. Smith in, advancing and driving down the ground. Well timed, but only as far as that man at long off. And there's a bit of a mix-up, and there's a misfield, so they managed to get through for a second. So it's, there's certainly things happening out in the middle. Finishes Smith's first over. He goes for 8. Good one for St George. Rose 15. Patterson 26. 8 gone, 2 for 74.
Did all the work there. I think it was it Pinson out there? Got to the ball quick, but then just overran it, and they got that extra single. I'd say if he didn't fumble it, it would have only been the 1. So
they've realised that you can't be hitting 4s and 6s every ball, but if you can be picking up a couple of 2s in each over, that will get that run rate rising. It's up to 6.2 now. It was down to as low as 5, so you probably would look at that on face value. 6.2 is not great, but from where they were, it's improved. It doesn't really look like the easiest pitch to bat on either, Steve.
No, it's just a little bit tacky. As I said when I went out there before the start, just felt that it wasn't as flat as I'd expected coming in here today. And it naturally will get harder as the day goes on.
So Fallons continues, thrown up, swept across the line. A brilliant catch! What about that? That is remarkable out in the deep. I think it might be Austin Waugh who's taken it. That is a really ripper of a catch to remove the danger man Patterson, who goes for 26. It is Austin Waugh, and the 3rd wicket falls. Talk us through this one, Steve.
That's an unbelievable catch. He's sort of in a fielding position. He's not up and he's not back. He's sort of just stuck in the middle, and that's a brilliant catch. And didn't he love it? This will be a good shot of it. Full stretch. It's a great catch.
Didn't look like it was going to be very comfortable when he landed either. He kind of had his arms and his elbows all kind of under his ribs, but that is a remarkable catch and just showing the kind of athlete he is. Patterson has to go. He departs for 26 from 19 deliveries, and just when it looked like St George were getting on top, they slipped to 3 for 74 in the 13th over.
Nothing like a wicket to stop momentum. Now that we've got Englebright coming in. You think he'd got a St George helmet by now? But wearing whatever club he played for last.
Yeah, Tom Engelbrecht is in to join Jono Rose, who's on 15, and wonder what we'll see here from Engelbrecht, whether he's going to go from ball one or whether he's just going to try and work the ball around for a couple of overs. Because if they could go berserk in the final 5 overs and get 50 or 60, I know it sounds a lot, but gets them to a really respectable total. Fallon's full toss is hit down the ground by Rose, who picks up a single. Into the 13th over now, so there's 2.5 overs remaining. If they could get another 15, that gets into 90, and then if you get 60 from the last 5, then that gets you to 150, which is probably a par. 140, probably maybe what they're aiming at the moment. Fallon's in. This ball takes a little edge and just dribbles past the wicketkeeper for Sutherland, Aidan Barriol, and they manage to pick up a single. It's going to go down as runs. Got just enough on it to keep it away from the keeper, who probably would have been looking for a stumping there if he had missed.
It was a strange one. He didn't even look like he was trying to get back into his ground either.
Fallon's in and just ease back down the ground, well fielded by him and his follow through. So a wicket, 2 runs from these first 4 balls. Thrown up and swept, hit on the pad. This one is close and it's gone. Plummies are like Rose. Fighting innings comes to an end. He goes for 16 of 26 balls, trying to sweep across the line. And that's as plummy as you like. And Dan Fallon's is doing the damage here at the SCG. Picks up his second, and St George 4 for 76.
Yeah. Pitched on middle, hitting middle.
I think Fallon's knew straight away that was a wicket. He was almost kind of walking towards the wicket keeper to celebrate. You can see here he's already on his way. And I think, unfortunately, Jono Rose probably knew he's in a bit of strife there. But I guess in his situation, you've been out there for 20-odd balls. You've got to try and elevate the run rate at some stage, don't you?
You do, but just the wrong ball. Shot selection. Would have been better just to knock it down the ground for a single. So we've got young Nathan Ellis coming in.
Important time of the innings for Ellis as well. 4 down, only 77 on the board. The last thing you want to do is be throwing wickets away and barely scraping together 100. Probably better to be more sedate, and yeah, if you can get some big shots in the last kind of 3 or 4 overs, then go for it. But at the moment, it's pretty much been all Sutherland, and their decision to bowl first has looked like a stroke of genius by Steve Smith. In fact, that wasn't Rose. It was Engelbrecht that was out. So my mistake on that last one. So Rose probably becomes the real linchpin here for St George. 17 not out. Great over there from Dan Fallon's. Picks up a couple of wickets. Ellis is on 1. Rose 17, 4 for 78 after 13. That run rate on exactly 6 and over. Watley Francis Walsh the next 3 in for St George.
He finishes again with great figures, 2 for 17 off his 4. So you've got the spinners going for 8 overs for 40, 3 for 40 off their 8. That's very, very handy.
You're not going to be complaining like that as a captain. Sure, Steve Smith stoked with how his bowlers performed so far today, particularly these slow bowlers. And Smith is going to continue 8 off his first over. Comes in, back and looking to cut. There's a big appeal from Smith. He seemed certain that was a wicket. Large contingent of Sutherland fans there. Might be some of the lower grade players that are here at the SCG. We're pretty excited by it.
It was strange. The keeper didn't really react until Smith went up. I don't know whether he was juggling the ball or not, but he didn't look all that keen on it.
First up ball there to Ellis. Smith in. Ellis back and chopping this one out to the offside. Straight to point, no run. once more back and just trying to guide that one away from the field, and they'll get through for a single. So Ellis moves to 2 after 3 dot balls, finally gets off the mark in this over. Smith in looped up, and Rose just tucks that onto the onside.
Just noticed the sight screen down the other end. The sheet is almost being blown off by the wind here, so we could have another problem with it. That's a good shot.
Rose, really nice sweep shot, picked it up and hammered that one over square leg for a boundary. So that's a good end of the over. Still though, only 5 coming from it. Rose moves to 20 from 26. Ella's 2 from 5. 14 overs gone here at the SCG in the Sixers conference final of the 2020 competition. It is St George 4 for 82.
And we've got a former Saint coming on to bowl, Daniel Rickson. Club coach at Sutherland. Former keeper, turned
Really?
Yes, turned seamer, wily old seamer now.
Steve Smith's thrown the ball and to see what he can do coming in from the Pangton end of the ground. And this ball takes an edge, just balloons up on the offside. They've got a single. But pretty decent first ball there from Daniel Rickson. Ellis goes to 3.
No energy wasted in his run-up. Very economical there. Probably could halve it.
Short of a length on the pads, just tickled around the corner there by Rose. He's on 21. He's the second leading high scorer in this team after Patterson made 26 and was taken off for an extraordinary catch from Austin Waugh. Rickson in, middle and off stump line, but just that short of a length area where it's very hard to get under the line of the ball. So 2 runs from these first 3 deliveries. Rickson bowls this ball, hit in the air, out into the deep. Sarukas is there, but they'll bounces a couple of feet shy of him and they just pick up the single.
It's amazing how many times this ball has hit the ground from the outfield onto the keeper on the bounce. It's I know why it's being done. Not a massive fan of it, to be honest.
Back in this one, slapped in the air. Coming around is Fallons, who doesn't catch that one and gets to him on one bounce. So 4 for 86, 4 singles from this over. Ellis 4, Rose 22. Run rate has dipped below 6 again. It's 5.8. Here's Rickson in once more. This ball hammered in the air, getting underneath it and taking a dolly of a catch. So that's the end of Ellis, just trying to elevate that run rate, throws the hands at it, and it just skewed off the outside edge and ballooned in the air. So he departs for 4, and not looking good for the St George Saints at the moment. 5.86 after 15, with 5 overs remaining here at the SCG.
Yeah, just losing wickets at the wrong time now. It's just stopping the momentum somewhat. And we see again, just taking the pace off the ball is helping get wickets and stop the runs. Easy catch there on the edge of the circle.
So Watley's in, Rose is on 22. But it looks like the batsman probably did cross at that last delivery, so it means that Watley will be on strike. So Peter Francis, Andrew Walsh, Tom Ortiz and Eric Denhatog are the last batters to remain in the sheds. 15 overs gone, 5 for 86. Smith starting his third, short of a length and just chopped onto the onside a little bit awkwardly there by Watley first ball.
Just bowling him very flat, not giving much air to the ball. Get a little bit of drift in.
Smith in and Waitley tries to free the arms and pushes that one out through cover for a single. So Rukus out the deep, does the fielding. So dot and one to start this over. Smith in, driving down the ground over the top of Smith. There is Rose, but again, only able to pick up the singles. So, field placings by Smith and this Sutherland team have been protecting these banjos. We've seen a couple of sixes and a few fours that have been smoked through the outfield, but in a large part it's been those players in the deep that have picked up a lot of the deliveries as this ball swung across the line, or attempted to at least, by Watley, who doesn't connect. With this sun and wind picking up, probably he's just trying out that outfit a little bit, as pushed off the back foot by Watley for a single out to the offside.
Just looking at our Facebook feed, we've got Matthew Baden watching us from Ohio in a plane. Bades used to play for St George, as that's pushed out to deep cover for a single. So he's enjoying it all the way from Ohio.
What's he doing over there?
Who knows?
Technology these days, hey? Watching 2020 game that's being played in Sydney on a plane when you're in Ohio. Crazy. It makes it boggles the mind. End of that over, 5 for 90 after 16. Rose 24, Watley 2. 4 overs to go. If you're in the St George dressing sheds now, Steve, what's a total that St George are going to be happy with?
Oh, you'd hope for 130. Something around there, just something to bowl at. But they'll have to bowl well to defend it.
So coming in again is Rickson with his mediums, and this ball lofted down the ground. There's a man coming in from the deep who will take the catch, comfortably taken in the end by Tom Doyle. And the wily veteran Rickson, he's doing the damage. He's got 2 for 4 off 7 deliveries. And that should see the end of Rose, I believe it was. He's out for 24. And it is now 6 for 90. St George in the 17th over.
Yeah, might have to revise that total for St George. Maybe 120. But yeah, just got under it. And a pretty simple catch there for Doyle.
They've been good in the outfield today, Sutherland, haven't they?
They've fielded very, very well. And that wins your games. You get a good bit of fielding. It just changes the momentum, just the flow of the game. If you field really well, things happen.
So 2 for 4 for Rickson. Just running through some of the other bowler figures. Wilson 2 overs, 9 for 12. Pinson 2 overs, 9 for 13. Tom Doyle 4 overs, 1 for 23. Fallon's brilliant, 4 overs, 2 for 16. Here is Rickson. Middle and stump line pushed down to long off. And only get a single as Doyle does the fielding. Francis off the mark. In fact, no, it's Francis on strike now. Watley picking up that last run. He's on 3. Ball out onto the offside.
Yeah, I think it'll suit bowlers to just roll their fingers over the ball here. It's just sort of holding on the deck.
This Ball just whipped off middle stump, but nice piece of fielding. The offside on the onside there by Wilson. And the run's just not coming at all here for St George. It's been really difficult for them since the first ball, pretty much. This ball goes straight up in the air. It might split the fielders out in the deep. It will. It lands right on the outer circle, and they get a couple there. Steve Smith hurls the throw in, and Francis off the mark now. So he's 2 off 3. Watley is 3 from 5.
Rickson bowling with good flight here.
Is he going to like you saying that?
No. It'll get back to him.
Rickson in, just pushed with soft hands at the offside for a single by Francis. Ends the over, 4 runs from it, a wicket. Really good stuff by the veteran. He has 2 for 8 from 2. And with 3 overs remaining in this innings, it is Sutherland who are well and truly on top. St George 6 for 94. Do you anticipate Sutherland having as many issues with this wicket as St George have, or do you think they've picked up a few things from when they've been bowling and the fact that the sun's probably coming out, drying the wicket out and drying the outfield out a little bit?
I think so, yeah. Just seeing what the pitch is doing helps. And I mean, St George will see it as well, and their bowlers hopefully take it on board what they need to do and what's worked for Sutherland.
So Smith, he's going to bowl himself out. He's bowled 3 overs, none for 17, so he's been pretty miserly. Time you can be conceding less than 6, remember, around 6 in the short form, it's a really good day. Bunted straight back to him in his first delivery by Francis. And there's a big appeal. Smith seemed confident there as it ricochets off the pad onto the onside. They'll pick up a leg by. 95 on the board now for St George. So Smith at the 12 years mark. He wants more, and Watley just trying to ease that onto the onside, but doesn't get it away. So dot, 1 leg by and dot. So nothing really happening here for St George in this over. Smith in and looking to sweep this one across the line, and a play and a miss there by Watley.
They're just really not sure how to play Smith at the moment. He's bowling good lines and good lengths as well.
Smith in, he gets onto this one, but he probably gets onto it too well because it's gone straight down the throat of the fielder out the deep. Austin Moore takes the catch again, perhaps a little bit easier than the one he took earlier. And the 7th wicket falls, and it's going from bad to worse for St George. 7 for 95 with 2.1 overs left in this one.
Strange shot. Didn't get onto it and pouched again.
It was the right idea, wasn't it?
It's got high on the bat. It's probably collapsed his front leg a bit too far, and he's got under it. Got it high on the bat, and off he goes. Good Andrew Walsh coming in.
So Smith gets his first wicket. He has figures of 1 for 17. And he's got him first ball. So Steve Smith just starting to do a few things now. Picks up a double strike, 2 wickets and 2 balls. Francis cleaned up for 3. His castle's been rocked, and now Sutherland have St George almost in knockout position now. 8 for 95, just played all round it, didn't he? It was Not one you want to see on the replay too many times. Smith finishes with 2 for 17 from 4. And spin has done the job again for Sutherland so far this morning and this afternoon, Steve.
Yeah, just missed a straight one there. It's about as simple as I can put it. And he'll be looking to get his pads off and get ready to have a bowl.
You feel it's going to take something pretty special for St George to eke this total up to something they would be kind of happy with, and to bowl out of their skin to try and limit Sutherland to have some pretty decent strikers of the ball.
Very much so. The start, the first 4 or 5 overs will be crucial for St George. If they've got Sarukas at the top, who'll go out all guns blazing. They know how he plays. He will try and get the total knocked off real quick. And then you've got Steve Smith as well. So it's those 2 wickets to start with. And then very good batsmen to follow them as well. So it'll have to be a really good start.
They're going to continue. Rickson, he has 2 for 8 from 2. Smith finishes with 4 overs, 1 maiden, 2 for 17. In comes Rickson here, angling into middle and off stump, pushed out to the offside. So inside the last 2 overs of this St George innings. Comes Rickson, maybe a slower ball driven really nicely back down the ground on the other side of the pitch, but they only get 1 for it as Smith does the fielding. So Walsh and Ortiz are the batsmen out in the middle at the moment. Ortiz is off the mark with that shot. He's on 1. Walsh is on 1. As Rickson comes in once more. This ball just bunted to a wide-ish long off. They think about a second, but they're not going to get one. Just the 1 run. Rickson in, driven a little bit uppishly, but well away from the field. But again, down to Smith at long on. They've not too much you can do with that, is there, Steve? When you're bowling pitched up, you've pretty much got to play it down the ground.
Yeah, and he's got no pace on the ball either, so you've got to make your own pace. And at this point, singles, you take anything, being St George.
Any runs you can get, like gold. This ball driven down the ground, mistimed, and the fielding is followed through to Rickson. So 1 ball left, and what will be his last over of the innings. He has 2 for 12, 2.5, and I know that St George were kind of on the rack to begin with when he came on, but bring up 2 wickets and keep things tight. He's done a really good job for his side. Last ball here, he looks to cut, and it's a plain a miss. So end of the over for him. 4 coming from it. He goes to 3 overs, 2 for 12. Fantastic figures. Ortiz is 2, Walsh is 2. And we have 1 over remaining. St George 8 for 99.
Yeah, very, very smart bowling from Sutherland. No pace on the ball whatsoever. I mean, all the slow bowlers have got the wickets. Or spin and slow with Rickson. We've got Austin Waugh coming in to bowl the last over.
And Austin Waugh is going to bowl the last over, so obviously feeling that they're comfortable enough and have faith enough to bowl the all-rounder, because they do have Wilson and Pinson, who both have 2 overs remaining. They only bowled the 2 overs. But you just feel the momentum really shifted when Patterson went out to that brilliant catch from Austin Waugh.
Yeah, you could feel the St George were just starting to get on top, getting some runs flowing again. And then that great catch seemed to turn the game.
So Waugh coming in, right arm over, drives on the up, square the wicket. Oh, good piece of fielding on the ground there. Keeps it to the single. So they've managed to pass the magic 100 number, which is one little goal ticked off here for St George. Warren, this ball lofted down the ground, well struck and well timed. And they might get 6 for this, I think. Wait for the confirmation from the umpire. It is a maximum there for Ortiz, who goes to 9 from 4. And a lofty blow that they needed gets them up to 107 with 3 balls remaining.
Great shot, just followed through with it. No one down there. It was wide, the man of the long off.
So 8 off this over 3 balls left. War into Ortiz, who drives forcefully at the man. Extra cover. He's all gone if he hits, but it's a shot that starts by Sarukas. Doesn't come up with the wickets. They pick up a single, so Ortiz moves to 10. 8 for 108, 2 balls remaining. More just bunted down the ground there. They think about a second. This could be tight. The throw's a good one. And he's going to be just get back safe. He whipped the bails off quick smart did Austin War, but good piece of running there by Walsh and Ortiz. Walsh moves to 5. 1 ball remaining in this innings. 11 have come from this over, which is absolute gold for St George, Steve. Yeah,
it's been a good over for him. Always hard for a bowler to come in and have to bowl 1 over. He hasn't bowled.
Last ball here, and it's just crunched down the ground.
Oh, no.
Knocks it away. They'll probably get 2 here, and they will, as Ortiz turns quickly. And 13 come from the final over. A good one for St George, probably their best of the innings. So they finished their 20 overs at 8 for 112, with Walsh finishing unbeaten 7 off 7, and Ortiz 10 off 5, with Wars only over going for 13. He probably made up for it with a scream of a catch and 2 other pretty decent catches as well. We'll just run through the St George scorecard before we get the final thoughts of Steve Green. Then David Gavin will be coming through to bring you the second 20 overs and potentially 20 overs of Sutherland's innings. The wickets fell like this. We saw Luke Bardia run out Pinson for 11 off 14 with 1 boundary. That was Pinson just kind of looking like he's trying to take his foot out of the way, deflecting it back onto the stumps. Nick Stapleton, the captain, caught Smith off the bowling of Doyle for 14. Curtis Patterson caught magnificently by Alston War. Catch that probably going to be replayed on the Cricket New South Wales Twitter page for a while for 26 from 19. John O'Rose caught Doyle bowled Dixon for 24. Engelbrecht Albert O'Fallon's for 1 off 3. Nathan Ellis caught Austin War bowled Rickson for 3. Watley was caught Austin War again by Steve Smith for 3, and then Francis was bowled by Smith for 3 as well, with both Walsh and Ortiz finishing not out. So they finish with an impressive total of 8 for 112 after it looked like they were going to struggle to make 90 or 95, so they've kind of given themselves something to bowl at, Steve. It's going to make an interesting first 5 overs when Sutherland make their way to the middle and St George have the ball in hand.
Very much so. It's that first 5 or 6 overs will be the key for this game. But yeah, they probably wanted more than 112, but they've got them now. They've got to defend for their lives, and we, being involved with St George and Sutherland games in the past, it's not over yet till the last ball's bowled. There's been finals where Sutherland have been all over the game and then St George come back and win. So be good viewing, and let's hope we go the distance.
Well, runs on the board, they always say that's an important thing in cricket, and they've got that. St George 8 for 112 for their 20 overs. It's going to take probably a 5 or 6 minute break as St George come out to warm up, and then we'll see them bowling against Sutherland, with Sutherland needing 113 to book their place in the New South Wales Premier Cricket 2020 final, which is taking place later today. We'll join you back again with David Gavin in around 5 minutes.
And welcome back to the SCG for this Sixers Conference Final of the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup between St George and Sutherland. And I can inform you, if you have missed the first 20 overs of this particular fixture, Sutherland have restricted St George to 8 for 112 from their 20 overs. A sterling effort there by the Sutherland side. We had a slight delay, or more than a slight delay, a 25-minute delay at the start of the innings due to a few technical difficulties in regards to the sight screen, but they were resolved by the ground staff here at the SCG, and we got back underway, and then it was uninterrupted for the rest of the 15 overs. And just wrapping up the scorecard for you, as I mentioned, 8 for 112 posted by St George. The top score for the Saints was Blues batsman Curtis Patterson at number 3, 26 from 19 deliveries. And unfortunately for St George, they couldn't build that substantial partnership to really launch and post a big total here at the SCG on Sunday morning in this Sixers Conference Final. The best figures returned by Sutherland. Well, it was shared. Multiple wicket takers. There were 3 of them for the Sutherland side. Dan Fallon's was returned 2 for 16. The Blues leg spinner Steve Smith with his leg spin returned 2 for 17. And Daniel Rickson, the son of the former Blues wicketkeeper batsman Steve Rickson, 3 overs, 2 for 12. So we're almost ready to get back underway here at the SCG with St George seeking to defend this target of 112 or 113 to win. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome David McDonald from a live 90.5 FM. And it's a great day here at the SCG, David.
Thank you very much, David. And this is an intriguing clash, this one. Certainly a good toss to win for Sutherland, but they bowled and fielded very, very well. We saw the slow bowlers bowl 16 out of the 20 overs, so it'll be interesting to see how St George reply with the ball here today.
Saw some fantastic fielding as well in that first innings of this particular fixture between the local rivals, Sutherland and St George. They played yesterday, of course, on the first Saturday of their Norm O'Neill Cup clash in McDonald's New South Wales Premier Cricket. But to get underway, it's Ellis from the Paddington end, and he's into Sarukas, who's whipping off his pads down towards backward square leg, and he'll pick up 2. Good running there by the Sutherland opening pair, and Sutherland get underway with a double.
That was a good start, good hustle there from Sarukas. But again, they've got a very formidable lineup today, Sutherland. And it's going to be a big question whether that 111 to chase is going to be an easy target to chase on this wicket.
So Nathan Ellis steams in past the umpire into Sarukas down the leg side again, but that'll be ruled a wide. So 1 more to the total, none for 3. And as I mentioned in that first innings, there was some absolutely excellent fielding. And it's not an understatement, because Austin Waugh took an absolute screamer backward of square leg to dismiss Curtis Patterson, in fact. And if you are up to date with your social media and following Cricket New South Wales on our various Twitter accounts, in comes Ellis to Sarukas, and again on the toes, and he whips it out towards deep square leg and picks up a single. And if you are following Cricket New South Wales on Twitter or Facebook, check out the absolute wonderful catch by Austin Waugh, son of the former Australian Test and Blues middle order batsman and captain Steve Waugh. Absolute blinder backward of square leg by the young man, the Australian under-19 representative. So Ellis to continue from the Paddington end, and coming over the wicket this time to Viviano, and Viviano's on the front foot and trying to drive that firmly out through the covers, but it's fielded. So 4 off the over so far. Jared Viviano and Peter Sarukas opening up for the Sutherland side. Jamie Brown due to come in at number 3. And Steve Smith, the one and only superstar international batsman, to come in at number 4. So Ellis, he's so far conceded 4, including 1 wide, and that's worked off the pads by Viviano out towards square leg. And the left-hander picks up 1.
He's getting some good pace early on here, but again, the left-right combination, just throwing his line out a little bit. But again, easy singles first up for Sutherland as they, again, just build away here. They do only require 5.6 and over.
Sutherland did a great job with the ball. In comes Ellis again to Sutherland. That seemed to cramp him up a touch. And he couldn't get it away. But a solid start by Sutherland here. 5 runs off the over, and as David just mentioned, that's all they require. Chasing 113 to progress to the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup final later this evening, starting at 6:30 local time here in Sydney at the SCG under lights, where they will be playing either Penrith or Sydney University, who are in the next match scheduled here at the SCG. Ellis into Sutherland. He's playing at that one outside off stump, and there's a slight cry from Ellis, but he's well clear of the bat. So at the end of the first over of this Sutherland reply, and the run chase to try and book a spot in that final tonight. None for 5.
Again, not a bad start there from either side. A hint of swing there late. He did dig the ball in most balls in that over, but we did see Sutherland with some prodigious swing in the first few overs. We'll see whether Tom Ortiz, who's been in great form for the Saints since he's come across, whether he can get a bit of movement early on. Of course, got a hat-trick.
He did, against Sutherland. The last time these two teams met in the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup competition. Fantastic hat-trick. Finished the match with 4 wickets, and St George prevailed by 8 wickets from memory in that match. Looks as though Sutherland have the upper hand though at the moment. In comes Ortiz to Viviano on the back foot, cutting backward of point. He'll pick up a single. So solid start here by the Sutherland side.
I certainly don't need to take many risks early on, although it is the power play. Now, very unfortunate for St George, obviously, to have their power play interrupted the way it was. Do you think it certainly did not help their cause there, David?
Well, it always hinders a side in a T20 match when your momentum is halted in any way, but unfortunately it was unavoidable, I think, the delay. And Sutherland did a terrific job with ball in hand. Here comes Ortiz to Sarukas, who's driving on the up. Out to cover, and it's fielded by the man that's positioned there. So unfortunate for St George that the momentum throughout that power play period, it was towards the back end of it, I think the end of the 4th over, that we had that delay. And unfortunately they weren't able to finish the last couple of overs, but it was an unavoidable delay. And Sutherland did a fantastic job towards the back end of those 20 overs. In comes Ortiz to Sarukas. That's a wild swipe. Tried to hoik that over mid-wicket, but didn't connect.
He was quite away from that, Sarukas. It's the first big swing we've seen of this innings so far.
So the one slip in place for St George. And then a short backward square leg, man deep on the fence. In comes Ortiz again over the wicket to Sarukas, and again it's well wide of off stump, and he's having a lash at that one, and he doesn't contact. So a couple of crucial dot balls here by Ortiz. He's taken 11 wickets at 10.4 leading into this match.
See a slight field change, the slip's coming out into we've got an extra cover and a short cover. There's
2 men pretty close together at point and cover point. In comes Ortiz again to Sarukas, and he got plenty on that. Again, he lashed the hands at it, got a thick outside edge, and it raced down to the 3rd man boundary for 4.
Yes, well, I don't think the slip would have got to that one. That would have been more to a 3rd slip. But it's encouraged the drive again, and nearly the result they wanted, St George, but a handy boundary for Sutherland at this stage of the innings.
Very handy. So 5 off the over. Tom Ortiz did such a great job to tie up Sarukas. He still be encouraged by that. There's a thick outside edge. Got plenty of bat on it to race down to the third man boundary. Ortiz again into Sutherland, and Sutherland, it's on the toes this time, and he's whipped it up and over, backward square leg, and that'll be consecutive boundaries to the Sutherland opener. So he's opened the shoulders. That was perfect timing by Peter Sutherland, and he moves to 11 from 9 balls.
Yes, he kept a lot more still there. He played that beautifully, Sutherland, and again, it's got Sutherland on a bit of a roll now after 2 overs. 1 for 14. It's a good start from them.
Just made a couple of movements down the pitch and waited for it and whipped it cleanly down towards the fine leg boundary. And 2 fours to complete what was a good over for Tom Ortiz until those 2 boundaries. He conceded 9 in the end. And Sutherland at the moment, they're sailing towards this target of 113. They're none for 14 after 2 overs.
It appears as though we're going to see Peter Francis come into the attack here from the members' end.
So just the 1 over spell for Ellis. Captain Nick Stapleton looking to change up the attack and break this opening partnership, you would assume, as soon as possible. So Sutherland 11 not out. Jared Biviano at the other end is 2 not out. And it will be Francis from the Paddington end. In he comes, upright, and that's cramped Biviano, and it seemed to catch the shoulder of the batter. That's a run out, that's out! That's a superb piece of fielding there by St George. There was a mix-up between Biviano and Sutherland has departed. He's been run out by some confusion between the batsmen, and the opening stand has been broken by a complete mix-up and some superb fielding by the man at backward point by St George. He had plenty of time to aim and deliver, and he produced a perfect throw to dismiss Sutherland.
That was a wonderful piece of fielding, but a needless run out there from Sutherland. The ball certainly took off the seam there and went straight to the man at that gully region, and Sutherland had already taken off, was way too far down the wicket. And needless in the end there, but the first wicket down, and that's exactly what the Saints have required here early up in this innings.
That's what they needed. And Jared Biviano, just a complete mix-up with his partner there, Sutherland. And that brings Steve Smith to the crease. So Jamie Brown was down to come in at number 3, but the captain here today for Sutherland, Steve Smith, has promoted himself up the order. Has been batting at 3 and 4 throughout the season. In comes Francis again to Biviano, and Biviano is slashing that with a cut shot up and over point for more.
Lovely shot from Biviano. It's too short, too wide. And he was able to help himself to that over the ring and 4 runs.
So that moves the score to 18. Sutherland have lost Peter Sutherland to a run out. A perfect piece of fielding by the man at backward point. I think it even might have been, well, I thought it was Patterson at first, but it was Waitley. And that one's pulled from Biviano out into the onside. Not quite timed by the Sutherland opener. Moves to 7. And that brings the imperious Steve Smith onto strike. Made an important 61 for Sutherland last weekend in their semi-final victory in the Sixers Conference against Sydney, who were undefeated heading into that particular fixture at Drummoyne Oval.
No question, this has been the moment a lot of people here have been waiting for today.
So Francis into Smith on the back foot, pushing backward of point, doesn't get a run there.
It's a good first ball to Smith. Had to climb up on his toes there to defend that away.
So a wicket with the first ball of this 3rd over, courtesy of a run out. Superb piece of fielding there by Waitley to dismiss the opener Peter Sutherland, who scampered down the pitch looking for a quick single, and he was sent back by Biviano. So confusion reigned supreme out there, and unfortunately Sutherland departed. Francis into Smith, and Smith driving down the ground. It slightly squared him up, but he'll pick up a single. And as is his wont, he's very quick between the wickets and moves the score to 20, and he's off the mark.
And just back to that run out too from Waitley. There was nobody at the stumps, David, so he had to hit, and he did that very well. Great stuff for St George there. They've got to keep those wickets ticking over to stay in this match, though.
So this game moving at a rapid pace as Sutherland chase 113 to win this particular fixture. That's up and over with a cover drive from Biviano, and gave that plenty. Didn't quite time it, but reaches the boundary rope in front of the ladies' stand. So a big over there for Sutherland. 10 off it. They lost the wicket of Peter Saruka's first ball, but Jared Biviano freeing the arms there. Moves to 11 with a lofted cover drive. Just gave that plenty of power, didn't he, to reach the boundary rope.
And of course, it is the shorter side of the ground. Even though he didn't quite hit it as well as he would have liked to, it got more than enough that it needed to get there.
So 1 for 24 after 3 overs. Run rate is 8. So they're hurtling towards this target of 113 to win, Sutherland. As I said, they're seeking to book a place in the final tonight, and also a place in the National T20 Premier Cricket Championships, in Adelaide in March.
Great initiative too.
That first ball from Ortiz is just defended into the offside by Smith. So there's plenty of prizes up for grabs for the teams, the 4 teams involved in the finals, the 3 matches here at the SCG today, the hallowed SCG. Looking a picture as well. Ortiz into Smith. Smith shuffles across, drives down the ground. It'll be fielded by mid-on, but he'll pick up a single. And he keeps that scoreboard ticking over, and it moves along to 25. So yes, the winners of the Sixers Conference Final, which is taking place between the local rivals here, St George and Sutherland. And also the winner of the Thunder Conference Final, the next match scheduled for play here at the SCG today between Sydney University and Penrith. The winners of both those particular fixtures will book a place in Adelaide in March. In comes Ortiz this time to Biviano. He's given that plenty, and he's caught out in the deep, just in front of the ladies' stand. So he went to pull that hard and over the top out towards square leg mid-wicket, and he's caught out on the boundary rope is Jared Biviano. So the runs are flowing for Sutherland, but so are the wickets, unfortunately. And Biviano departs. It seemed to maybe hit high on the bat there, and he didn't quite get all of it. And it's safely taken by the St George fielder out there in the deep, and wasn't he happy about it. Biviano departs for 11, and it's 2 for 25.
Yeah, Waitley again. Good catch there. Didn't have to move too far, but it was plenty of height on that one, as of course Biviano heading for that short boundary. And definitely agree with you, David. He definitely got that high on the bat up towards the splice. And another valuable wicket for St George.
So 2 for 25. And it looks as though Jamie Brown will now head out into the middle to join his captain Steve Smith. And they perhaps just need to consolidate for a couple of overs here. The power play still has 2.5 overs to go, but 2 new batsmen at the crease, with both Sarukas and Biviano departing for 11. And Sutherland are 2 for 25. Tom Ortiz has a wicket, and Peter Francis doesn't have a wicket, but he forced a wicket in his first over from the Paddington end. So Ortiz into his second over. He's coming over the wicket. Past the umpire, he comes into Smith. Smith driving firmly back at Ortiz in his return. Good piece of fielding. Turn swiftly to try and run out Brown, just in case he was backing up a little bit too far, but Brown was safely home. So we've got 1 slip in place. Got a man at fly, slip, deep third man. Man at point. And a regulation cover. Mid-off, mid-on. Ortiz into Smith. That's a Yorker, and Smith is eking that one out.
Very well bowled again from Ortiz. He's in a rich vein of form at the moment, particularly in the short form of the game. 12 wickets now for this competition. It's a great effort.
So the runs are flowing, but Sutherland have lost 2 wickets. So they're looking to get this target of 113 in a hurry. Can Smith and Brown guide them home? Ortiz into Smith. Smith on the back foot and just nudging that, deflecting it out towards square leg, and he'll pick up a single. So just 3 singles so far for Smith. And that was a good over for St George. 2 off it and a wicket. So Tom Ortiz bowling to his recent form and currently has the figures of 1 for 11 after 2 overs. So 4 overs have been completed in this second innings. The Sutherland run chase against St George, the local derby, the Shire local derby here at the SCG. It's the second time in 24 hours these 2 teams have met. They also played each other on the first Saturday of their 2-day fixture in McDonald's New South Wales Premier Cricket yesterday, and it looks as though Ellis is back into the attack now. He's coming over the wicket to Smith. This is on his legs, and Smith is letting go and concedes a wide to Ellis. So 2 for 27.
Of course, a lot of play interrupted yesterday, David, through the horrendous weather conditions that we suffered throughout parts of Sydney yesterday, and fingers crossed they're going to not have that same effect on today's events.
So hopefully those storms can stay away today, or at least away from the SCG in terms of the cricket that's going on. But we hope that everyone's safe and sound around Sydney, given the recent storm activity over the last couple of days. That one was defended by Smith out onto the onside, no run conceded. So Smith 3 from 8 deliveries faced. Brown yet to get off the mark. So you've just got to be careful here, Sutherland, with 2 new batsmen at the crease. Ellis into his second over. He opened up the attack for St George and then was taken off and brought back on again. So this is his second over. Ellis over the wicket to Smith on his hips. And Steve Smith doesn't miss out there. Just deflects it down towards backward square leg and will pick up a single.
Just looking at their demeanour in the field, they're really looking up for this this innings here, St George. I'm obviously disappointed they didn't get a more defendable total, but they're certainly on in the field here so far.
As you mentioned earlier, David, the slower bowlers did a great job for Sutherland. Daniel Rickson, Fallons, and also Smith himself did well to not only take wickets but tie up the scoring rate. In comes Ellis to Brown on the back foot, and the left-hander just can't quite get it away as he plays that almost at his feet, and it dribbles out towards backward point.
I think that may have something to do with, again, the fact that the wicket is still drying, still it's holding up just a little bit, which again makes the slow bowlers even more difficult.
So 3 men on either side in regulation positions inside the ring for St George, and the 1 slip in place. Ellis over the wicket. In he comes to Brown. Brown working off his hips, and he'll pick up a single out to square leg. He's off the mark. So 2 runs conceded so far in this over off the bat. 1 sundry, a wide earlier in the over, so 3 off it. 2 for 29. 84 to win now for Sutherland. And as is the case in many of these T20 fixtures, we'll become accustomed to that with the Big Bash League starting in just under a week's time. In comes Ellis to Smith on the back foot. Thick inside edge as it squirts out towards square leg. And he'll pick up a single though. So good running, good awareness there by Brown at the other end.
Just might have hit the seam a little bit, that delivery. Just a little bit in, and again off the inside edge, but safe for Smith. And he's just, you can see he's just building his innings here. He's setting himself for the duration.
If the slower bowlers come into the attack, he might really open the shoulders. In comes Ellis to Brown, plays that as late as possible and just guides it down towards third man for another single. So a good over there for Sutherland, just to keep the scoreboard ticking over. 4 runs off the bat and 5 off it in total. 2 for 31. Brown 2 not out from 3 balls faced, and Smith 5 not out from 10 balls faced. So St George captain Nick Stapleton has really varied up his bowlers even in the first 5 overs. Opened with Ellis from the Paddington end, and then with the next over from the Paddington end, he replaced him with Peter Francis, and then Francis was replaced by Ellis. But Tom Ortiz has been continuous from the other end up until now. Luke Bartier is coming into the attack. Ortiz bowled 2 overs, 1 for 11. And of course, David, in this T20 format, it's important that you just keep things flowing. If you're trying to get wickets as soon as possible, that's the aim for any T20 team. You've got to try and change up the bowls as much as possible at times as that ball is defended out to the offside. They look for a quick single there, Brown, but unfortunately he couldn't achieve his goal.
Of course, the best way to keep the run rate down is to continuously chip into that batting order by taking regular wickets. And Sutherland were able to take them in blocks of 2. There was quite often there 2 wickets in an over. And that made it very hard for St George to get some momentum with the bat.
So Bartier into Brown on the back foot punching, but it's fielded forward of point. So haven't seen spin employed yet. Of course, the innings is only well into its 6th over now, but exclusively pace used during this power play period, which is a little surprising perhaps given the success of the slower bowlers when Sutherland had ball in hand. Earlier today they won the toss. Steve Smith won the toss and elected to bowl first. Obviously backing in his batsman to chase down any total that was posted by St George. And perhaps he was thinking about that wicket as well. It was maybe appeared a little bit slow at the toss and maybe thought that that wicket's going to dry out towards the back end of the match. So no slips in place for Bartier. Just 3 men on the onside. Sort of a short, fine leg gully position, right on the ring. And also a mid-wicket. Bartier into Brown and can't get that one away. 3 dots.
It's well bowled. It's been a tidy over so far. Now obviously Sutherland employed their spinners after 4 overs, which obviously led to the big delay. Doyle wanting to come around the wicket. And St George holding off, possibly waiting till after the power play.
So Bartier from the Randwick end. Over the wicket, past the umpire he comes, and Brown is slashing at that one. Outside off stump, short of a length, couldn't get it away. It's fielded by the man at Gully Point. So 4 dots. This is a good over here by Bartier to start his spell. And St George have done a good job. They conceded a few runs, but the run rate at the moment around that 5 or 6 mark. 2 for 31. And they're pursuing 113 to win. They require a further 82. In comes Bartier. Down the ground goes Brown and just clears the man at mid-off. Didn't time it at all. And it pitches like a fine sand wedge at your local golf club and picks up 2. 2 for 33.
Seemed to get that on the bottom of the bat. Was lucky just to get it over in the end.
Strong top order for Sutherland, and unfortunately for them, they've already lost 2 wickets. Bartier lopes in again to Brown. He gives himself plenty of room. He's whacked that, smashed it out towards mid-on, long on, and it raced away to the boundary rope out in front of the Barongal stand. That was a belligerent shot by Brown.
It's a shame from Bartier just dropping that one in short. It's been a very tidy over until then. But well dispatched there from Brown.
Had plenty of gusto, did the number 4 for Sutherland. So it was a tight over for Bartier until those final 2 deliveries. Conceded 6 from the final 2 balls. And the score is now 37, 2 wickets down. And Nick Stapleton, the St George captain, bringing himself into the attack now from the Paddington end. So plenty of bowling changes for St George, particularly from this Paddington end. No bowler has bowled 2 overs consecutively in this innings for St George from the Paddington end. And he'll be bowling to Steve Smith, taking guard on leg stump. In comes Stapleton to Smith, defends. No run. So Smith 5 from 11, Brown 8 from 9. Powerful boundary from the last ball of the last over did Brown. This one's full, squares up, almost catches the leading edge of Smith, but he remains safely up the crease and it's fielded by mid-off.
2 balls bang on the mark there from Stapleton. It's been a good start. Not giving Smith any room whatsoever.
It's been a conservative start by Smith. 5 singles so far. Stapleton over the wicket to Smith on the back foot, and he just waits for that. Last minute he plays with soft hands out towards point and picks up a quick single. Moves along to 6. So 75 to win for Sutherland. And the required run rate is 5.6. So run a ball. Power play, of course, completed last over, David. So a few more fielders out in the deep for St George.
There's only 4 or 5 at the moment. 3 on the leg side, 2 on the off, and both behind square.
Stapleton this time to Brown, gave him plenty of room outside off stump, and it's driven powerfully out towards cover for a single. Scores 2 for 39. And we have 2 balls left in the 7th over. So a spot up for grabs in the final that starts at 6:30 tonight. Sutherland on track at the moment. In comes Stapleton to Smith. This time he's pulling, but catches the bottom of the bat. Didn't time it at all, and it just trickles its way out towards deep square leg, and he picks up his second single of this over. 3 runs so far conceded.
Again, no concerns for Sutherland because, again, the 3 singles in this over is still good enough. Still only need 5.5 and over.
So this time it's Brown to take strike, and he's defending. Just opens the face of the blade and glides it down towards third man. And he'll pick up a single. 4 off the over after 7 overs. 2 for 41 Sutherland. And they require a further 72 to book their spot in the final later this evening.
Of course, be wonderful scenes here with the lights on at night. There's no better sight almost in the world, David, than the Sydney Cricket Ground under lights. It's fantastic. And of course, we've got an exciting game coming up after this one with Penrith and Sydney University, and hopefully Penrith will bring their cheer squad like they did last year, which provided a lot of entertainment during the match that they won the Sydney Thunder Conference final, apologies, last year, and unfortunately defeated in the final by Sydney.
And a few members of that particular squad are again in action against Sydney University in the Thunder Conference final in the next match here at the SCG. Change of bowling for St George. This one's a full toss, driven down the ground, but again not timed by Brown, and he finds wide mid-off. Tom Engelbrett into the attack for St George. The leg spinning all-rounder for ACT New South Wales Country in the Futures League, as that one's defended. Back to Engelbrett in his return. Good start for Engelbrett. 2 dots. An opportunity maybe for Sutherland to pick up the scoring rate with spin into the attack. That one was short, outside off stump, and cut away, and a little bit of a mix-up again between Smith and Brown this time. We saw an earlier mix-up lead to a run-out earlier between Sarukas and Viviano, and 1 run was added to the total, but just a slight mix-up between Smith there and also Brown, and it was almost collected by the ball in the Fielder's return to the keeper.
Well, both batsmen actually slipped over on their turn, going back for the second.
Engelbrett into Smith on the back foot. That gave him plenty of room. That might even reach the boundary rope. It does, so he's timed that well. His first boundary, Steve Smith. What an exquisite cut shot it was. He waited to the last minute to just play it as late as possible, and perfect placement by Smith, and he reaches the boundary rope just in front of the ladies' stand.
Perfect placement there from Smith.
So Engelbrett. In he comes again to Smith on the front foot this time, and he just eases it down the ground towards long on, and he picks up a single to the man that's been put back there. So 6 runs off the over so far. 2 for 47. Another 66 to win. Engelbrett in this time into Brown. This is a short ball, and it's dispatched for more. Brown, he capitalised on that shorter delivery. It was a long hop, and he put it away with a pull shot that raced along the carpet to the boundary rope.
Yeah, disappointing finish to the over there from Engelbrett. He knew it straight away and dispatched accordingly. And again, that just takes a little bit of pressure off the Sutherland batsman. A couple of boundaries in a row through the over.
Takes the total past 50 now after 8 overs. So nearly halfway there, Sutherland. 2 for 51. Smith 12 not out from 16 balls faced. Brown 15 from 15. In comes Stapleton again, wide of off stump. It's full. Brilliant piece of fielding there by the man at cover. No run. That was Engelbrett, it appeared. Just get that confirmed. Doesn't look like Tom Engelbrett.
It does look like a 7 to me.
Perhaps it was Engelbrett. In comes the St George captain, Stapleton, short of a length on the pads of Smith. He can't quite get it away. It's be interesting to see whether this is ruled as a leg bye or runs off the bat. It's runs off the bat, so Smith moves along to 13.
They just must have got a little inside edge there. See the field changing again. Looks like third man's coming into the circle.
So Stapleton, this time into Brown. This is short. This is a slower ball as well. Outside off stump. Just perhaps a couple of centimetres outside off stump. It was a very good slower ball there by Stapleton, which Brown unfortunately misread and couldn't connect.
Yeah, held in the wicket a little bit. Rose sharply.
So Stapleton with his medium pace, and he comes again to Brown. This is Fuller, and Brown, he's cramped up a little bit, but gets it away out the offside and picks up a quick single out to cover. 2 for 53.
It's pretty tightly bowled again from the skipper. Not giving much room at all. So it's quite slightly windy at the moment. There's quite a strong breeze happening from the north-northeast.
Stapleton this time into Smith. This is short, and Smith tries to nurse that around the corner. And he picks up a single.
Another slower delivery there. He had to wait on that one, Smith, didn't he?
Didn't quite get the timing he was probably after there, Steve Smith. 2 for 54. 59 to win now. In comes Stapleton to Brown on the back foot, and he's blazed that away. Another brutal cut shot by Jamie Brown, and again, like a tracer bullet, it reaches the boundary rope. 7 off the over. 2 for 58.
Oh, that's nearly one of the shots of the day so far. That's a beautiful cut shot. Strong through that offside, isn't he? Again, beautifully weighted. No point there. That's another handy boundary.
There was just no chance of any fielder getting anywhere near that, was there?
And he stood there and watched it go.
Pierced the 2 fielders in the deep, and it just absolutely motored to the fence.
Yes, it is the short side, but again, he had to hit that hard to split that gap. So we see another change of bowling here, David.
We are. Den Hartog coming into the attack. Eric Den Hartog with a little bit of medium pace, so not as many spinners in the St George attack, it appears. Den Hartog into Smith on the pads. You don't bowl there to Steve Smith. He picks up an easy single and moves along now to 15. Brown is 20 not out from 18 balls faced, and Steve Smith's just playing the anchor role at the moment. He's 15 from 20.
They don't have to do anything silly. Again, Brown, they've been putting the bad balls away without taking any chances whatsoever.
So Den Hartog into Brown. And again, tries to belt that down the ground, but catches the bottom of the bat. And that's fielded by short, wide, mid-off. Required run rate is now 5.1. 2 for 59. We're into the 10th over. Den Hartog into Brown. Good delivery there. Falling on the toes. It's where it needs to be. Brown couldn't get it away.
Very well bowled again. Nice and tight. Line and length.
So 2 men in the deep on the offside. Deep cover and also deep third man. Den Hartog again to Brown, and he tries to play that down the ground. It's bowled him. Well, I thought it caught the pad at first, but it's beaten the defences and it has bowled Jamie Brown. So Den Hartog produces the breakthrough for St George. An important wicket for the Saints. 3 for 59 now, Sutherland. He tried to advance and drive that down the ground past mid-on, but unfortunately for Brown, he didn't connect, and it contacted the stumps and disturbed his castle, and that's the end of Jamie Brown.
Yeah, he played all around that. Tried to open up and play through the onside, but well bowled from Den Hartog. But a handy little innings there for Sutherland. And the new batsman now is that man who took 3 catches, including that screamer there at point, Austin Waugh.
Yes, Austin Waugh comes to the crease to join his captain, Steve Smith. A couple of famous names in this Sutherland side. Waugh and Rickson. Of course, Austin, the son of the former Australian Test captain and legendary batsman for the Australian side, and also the New South Wales Blues, Steve Waugh. And Daniel Rickson, who picked up a couple of wickets for Sutherland earlier today. He's the son of Steve Rickson, former New South Wales wicketkeeper batsman.
Austin's uncle could play a little bit too.
Could, certainly could. Mark, of course. This one's defended out in the offside.
Be interesting to see what Steve Smith had to say to Waugh when he came to the crease, what the game plan is here. He just told him to play himself in and work the ones. They don't want to see a bundle of wickets here.
Den Hartog, great first over by the medium pacer, and again this one's driven a little more firmly but can't pierce the gap, and he doesn't pick up a run. So just the 1 run conceded in that 10th over by St George. An excellent over there by Eric Den Hartog, and he's broken the partnership between Brown and Smith, which was continuing, really starting to build into something that possibly could have got the Sutherland side home. But unfortunately for Jamie Brown, he just, as you mentioned, David, played a little bit all around that, and he departs for 20, a quick fire 20 from as many balls. And it looks as though there will be another change in the attack from the Paddington end. So plenty of bowling changes by Nick Stapleton. And it will be Peter Francis back into the attack for the Saints. In he comes over the wicket to Smith. This is full outside off stump, and it's just worked in customary fashion by Steve Smith as he shuffles across the crease. Down the ground he goes, and he picks up a single. He's got a unique technique, but he knows it better than anybody, of course, and it has Worked so well throughout. A tremendous career to date for Steve Smith. He's currently 16 not out from 21 balls faced. It's 3 for 60. Francis this time to War. War on the front foot, and he's driving at that one, but it's well wide the off stump, and unfortunately plays and misses. No run.
Yeah, it wasn't quite there for him. Soon the replay. Good couple of inches outside the off stump. Just tried to play too straight.
So just the 4 men in the ring, other than the wicketkeeper, of course, for St George. 5 men, in fact. Francis to War, and again he advances and tries to drive that out through the covers, and he plays and misses.
Well, again, each dot ball just brings that slight amount of pressure, and we're just seeing that run rate required go up just a fraction.
A little bit of a slower ball there by Francis, I think, that deceived War.
It's very well bowled again in that corridor.
Almost played the ball before it had arrived. Francis to War. Again on the front foot. There's a big appeal for caught behind as he plays and misses again. So War struggling. Umpire says not out. But again, with hard hands, he tried to drive that out through the covers. We just see a replay. Hard to tell whether he got any bat on that one from that particular angle.
It's beaten him outside the off stump, and a bit of swing in after the ball's past him. But he's struggling to put bat on ball here.
He is. He's yet to get off the mark is Austin War. After 5 deliveries, this is full, and on the pads it's a freebie for Austin War. Puts it away out through mid-wicket. He'll pick up an easy 2. So that last delivery, a full toss on the pads from Francis that relieves the pressure. And War is able to get off the mark, and he moves to 2. So now another 51 required for victory. Run rate required of 5.6. We have 1 ball left in the 11th over. So we're past the halfway point of the run chase. Francis into War again. He's on the front foot. That's bowled him. He's played it on. So Austin War departs. Francis, he gave him a freebie the ball before, but that wasn't a freebie. It brought up a wicket.
Wonderful over, wonderful delivery here. Pitched on off stump, and unfortunately he's played it into the ground. Austin War, it's gone onto the stumps, and just what the doctor ordered for St George. Keeps him in the match here.
Just tried to play with soft hands, guiding it down towards third man, you'd imagine. And he's just played it on to his leg stump there, Austin War. So Steve Smith loses another partner. It's 4 for 62. Things are starting to get a little interesting here at the SCG now. With 51 required for victory. The key man for Sutherland is Steve Smith, because he's lost a couple of batting partners. He was starting to build quite a productive partnership with Jamie Brown before he was bowled by Eric Den Hartog. And then the very next over, Austin War has departed, playing on from the bowling of Peter Francis. So St George doing a great job here.
You'd have to say it's game on, and another wicket for St George, David, that could really put the pressure on Sutherland. It's not a huge total, but sometimes they're the hard ones to chase.
Den Hartog to Smith, drives out through the covers briskly, but he'll only pick up a single. It's been a little bit of a pattern in his innings. He's been happy to pick up the ones. Of course, we must mention that this pitch appears to be holding up a little bit in the surface in terms of the deliveries that are being bowled. So perhaps a little bit slow. The square and the whole of the SCG looks a picture for this finals day of the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup. This is full and on-off stump. And the new batsman Doyle is just easing into the offside, and he picks up a single.
Have to agree with you there, David. It looks fantastic. Do you know by any chance which pitch we might be using for the New Year's test?
I have no idea, unfortunately. That's suggest it won't be this one that we're using at the moment.
No,
but
definitely not.
Den Hartog to continue from the Randwick end into Smith, shuffles across, tries to drive down the ground. Well fielded by Den Hartog in his return. And things are getting a little tighter and a little tenser. Here at the SCG, we're into the 12th over. And Sutherland still require 49 to win. So 8.3 overs remaining. And that run rate is nearing a run a ball. Den Hartog to Smith. And whips that down the ground, down towards long on, just picks up a single. So 3 runs off the over so far. It's important Sutherland just continue to keep that scoreboard ticking over at the moment. It's a small target of 113 to win. But unfortunately, they've lost 4 wickets. The first wicket to fall was that of Peter Saroukas, run out for 11. Viviano, he was caught by Waitley. Bowler was Ortiz for 11 as well. Den Hartog into Doyle. Drives down the ground, straight past the bowler. They'll pick up a quick single. The fielder coming around from mid-on. Shies, misses the stumps. 4 runs off the over so far. And then the next wicket to fall was that of Jamie Brown, bowled by Den Hartog for 20. After a handy little partnership with his captain, Steve Smith. And then Austin Waugh, unfortunately, struggled to get off the mark. He was given a freebie by Peter Francis. And then the very next ball, he played onto his stumps. In comes Den Hartog to Smith. Opens the face of the blade off the front foot. And he'll pick up a single down to third man. So 5 runs off the over. 5 singles and a dot. 4 for 67, 46 to win.
It's going to set this match up just nicely. Again, they still just under 6 and over they require. But again, it's not all easy going, as we've been saying. The odd ball is still holding up in this wicket. Still a little bit of a hint of swing occasionally. And we've got, looks like Francis coming in again, who's been very tidy.
He will be continuing from the Paddington end, Peter Francis. And he comes over the wicket to Smith. Smith shuffles across, full ball on his legs. But he played it on, off stump. Had a bit of trouble getting that out, but Smith doesn't have any trouble picking up 2. And he moves along to 21. It's 4 for 69.
Yeah, that was vintage Smith there, wasn't it? I said just walked across slightly, knew exactly where he wanted to put it, and timed it beautifully.
So this partnership for Sutherland is crucial. They've lost 4 wickets. They don't want to be losing any more. As that winning target nears ever closer. And we're into the 13th over. Francis to Smith, full outside off stump. Delightfully driven out to the man in the deep. Looks for 2. Decides against it. Almost a chance of an overthrow there, but well backed up by the fielder at mid-on.
They did well, Ellis, to cut that down to 1. Plenty of ground to cover out there on that longer boundary.
3 runs so far off the over. Smith 22 not out. Top score for Sutherland. Top score for St George earlier today was another class batsman in Curtis Patterson. Blues number 3. Well, this one is well deflected, paddled with a cut shot. Almost over where first slip would be, and he'll pick up a couple there, Doyle. How would you describe that shot, David?
Definitely not out of the textbook. That was interesting. I can't wait to see this on replay. Now,
almost like the ramp, wasn't it?
It was. It just got big on him and tightened him up a little bit. He had nowhere to go. But it was like giving slips practice at training.
But he got it high enough. In comes Francis again to Doyle, and Doyle is driving out towards cover point. Picks up a single. So a 2, a 1, a 2, a 1. 6 runs off the over.
40 from 44 required. So again, they're remaining consistently on track.
A couple of boundaries here would relieve the pressure, wouldn't it, and make the job a little easier for Sutherland. couple of errant shots brought about the demise of War and also Brown. This is driven by Smith out into the covers, out towards extra cover. They come back for two. Good running.
Oh, overthrows. There could be 4 of them.
And it is 4 overthrows, so they pick up 6 from that particular drive. Sutherland do, and 6 to the total for not only Steve Smith, but also Sutherland in their chase of 113 to win this fixture. And 6 in not your regulation fashion either. They picked up 2, and then the throw was wide, and as David described, unfortunately, it raced away to the boundary rope just in front of the members' stand to add another 4 runs to the 2 already scored. In comes Francis on the toes of Smith, and he's whipping from middle and off stump down the ground towards long on. He'll pick up a single, so a very expensive over there for St George. 13 off it. Sutherland are 4 for 80. Smith is 29 from 29 balls faced. And he got a bit of help there in the last over with 4 overthrows. Doyle is 5 from 4. 13 overs have been completed. And that really did hurt St George, didn't it, David?
You can just see that they just slightly deflated after that over there. There's a few hands on hips. That really hurt them, no question. Just taking that pressure off. 33 off 42 now. It's funny how quickly that equation has turned around. But they need nothing but wickets now, St George.
So Bartier comes back into the attack from the Randwick end, into Smith. Smith on the front foot and driving one-handed down towards long on. Didn't quite time it, but he'll pick up a single. So he's now 30 from 30 as the Sutherland captain. 32 to win from 41 balls. That last over for Sutherland really did relieve the pressure. 13 from it. An expensive one from Peter Francis. So St George now on the back foot. They need a wicket, or at least a couple of dot balls. In comes Bartier to Doyle. Gives himself some room, tries to cut and catches a thick outside edge. It beats the field and reaches the third man boundary. So 4 more to the total for Sutherland, and they are now starting to race towards this victory target of 113.
Another bit of fortune for Sutherland there. Great effort from Tom Ortiz down there at third man to try and cut that off, but there was too thick an edge on it. And another handy boundary, and those couple of boundaries in the last few balls have made such a difference to this chase for Sutherland. 28 from 40 now required.
And Doyle is 9 from 5. He's taking strike again to Bartier. Bartier, that's short but closer to off stump, and Doyle did a good job to work it backward of square there. So the man backward of points and pick up a single. Brings the key man Steve Smith back onto strike, who is 30 from 30 balls faced. 6 off the over so far. A boundary off the second ball. Thick outside edge from an attempted cut shot by Doyle. But race to the third man boundary. In comes Bartier to Smith. And Smith's on the back foot. And just nursing that backward of point for a quick single. So he moves to 31. 26 to win from 38 balls for Sutherland to book their place in the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup final, which starts at 6:30 tonight here at the SCG. Before that fixture, the Thunder Conference final between Penrith, who are undefeated heading into that fixture against Sydney University. Bartier to Doyle, and he's cutting out towards cover point. And the man in the deep cleans up and he picks up a single. So 8 off the over.
Again, Steve Smith, the perfect man for this situation. Wouldn't you love to be batting with him at the other end?
Great experience for all of these young and old players in the Sutherland side, and that's just paddled around the corner by Smith. Out to square leg, picks up yet another single. So not too many boundaries in this T20 knock for Smith, but he's doing the job for his Sutherland side. The Sutherland skipper is 32 from as many deliveries. Doyle is 11 from 7, 4 for 89. Sutherland need 24 from the final 6 overs. So a run rate of 4 required. And they'll be looking to get those 24 runs, you'd imagine, as quickly as possible. Only 2 o'clock local time here at Moore Park in Sydney. And it looks as though Ellis is being reintroduced to the attack from the Paddington end.
I'm going to ask him to rip in and try and get a wicket here.
In he comes, Nathan Ellis on the runway into Smith, just tucking behind square, and he picks up a single.
Certainly will be interesting to see how this wicket plays throughout the day, David, and whether, again, we might see a few more boundaries in the later game, or whether that ball will still hold up throughout the afternoon. Still very soft underfoot in the outfield, just as I walked across just bore the start of play. We saw a few fieldsmen go over, a bit of a slip, but hopefully that's dried up a little bit now.
So some slight adjustments being made to the field. Ellis again on the runway, and he comes to Doyle, trying to work down towards fine leg, but that'll be a wide down the leg side. So 2 runs off the over, 1 sundry, 1 single. 4 for 91, 22 to win. So Ellis has just been a little bit off kilter in terms of his radar today at times, but has been fairly tidy on a pitch that is perhaps playing a little bit slower than one might expect. That's on middle and leg stump, and Doyle gave himself plenty of room to try and whack that down the ground, but he caught the thick inside portion of the bat. And it squirts out to the leg side for a single. So 3 off the over.
Certainly is a lovely day here at the moment. Still plenty of time for you to come down to the SCG if you're thinking about it this afternoon.
Still 2 games of cricket to come. Ellis to Smith. That's caught him on the pad. There's a big appeal for LBW, but the umpire says no, not out.
Oh, I think maybe a hint of bat there.
So Smith again shuffling across the crease there. So it'll be interesting to see on the replay. I think this has caught the bat. So a close call, but not out. And Ellis has 3 balls left in this over. A wide off the second delivery. Currently has the figures of none for 13. He opened the attack with Tom Ortiz, who's bowled 2 overs, 1 for 11. So we might expect him to come back into the attack soon. That's driven down the ground by Smith, but can't beat mid-off. Peter Francis has bowled the 3 overs, 1 for 26. Luke Bartier, 2 overs, none for 15. Nick Stapleton, the St George skipper, 2 overs, none for 11. Tom Engelbrett, 1 over, none for 10. And Eric Den Hartog picked up the crucial wicket of Jamie Brown for 20. He has 2 overs, 1 for 6. So St George have done a sterling job with the ball. In comes Ellis to Smith on the pads. Works that from middle stump. And will pick up a single. 1 ball left in this over. So far, it has conceded 4 runs. 20 to win for Sutherland. 31 balls remaining. So they're now starting to take things a little more comfortably and cruise towards this target of 113 to win. But nevertheless, there are still 20 runs to get, and anything can happen in T20 cricket. Of course, Sutherland lost the semi-final last season of this tournament to the eventual champions Sydney, and a false start for Ellis, as there was a slight field change and Smith alerted the umpire. I think the umpire also had a keen eye on that fielder. But a false start for Ellis. And in he steams again on the runway, over the wicket to Doyle. Full, middle stump, slower ball Yorker. And a good piece of bowling by Ellis to complete the over. 4 off it, including 1 wide and 3 singles. 4 for 93. 20 to win, 5 overs left.
Apart from the wider tidy over there from Ellis. But again, what are they going to do now, St George? I really need a wicket.
We just see a replay of that LBW shout. It's always difficult when the bat and pad are so close together.
Well, if it didn't hit the bat, it looked pretty out. I think hitting middle stump about 2/3 of the way up, David.
Yes, it was a close call. So it looks as though Tom Engelbrett is being reintroduced to the attack from the Randwick end. I think he bowled 2 overs in his first spell. No, 1 over, pardon me. None for 10.
No, he started not too badly and then just that half tracker at the end of his last over.
Over the wicket he comes, the leg spinner into Smith, who's working off the toes expertly down the ground, and it's fielded by Long On. So 4 for 94, 19 to win. All those Sutherland supporters out there that are tuning into our live stream via the Cricket New South Wales website, also our Facebook page and Twitter channel. Smith 35 from 37 balls. It's Doyle on strike to Engelbrett. Down the wicket he comes, advances, finds some open pasture wide of mid-on. And should pick up a couple at least. He picks up 3 in fact. And moves the score along to 4 for 97. And now there are just 16 runs to win this fixture for Sutherland. And they're trying to make up for last season where they lost the semi-final, as I mentioned, to the eventual champion Sydney. And it looks as though they're set for victory here at the SCG in the Sixers conference final. That last delivery from Engelbrett defended back down the pitch and collected by the leg spinner in his return. So Smith into a lovely shot down the ground again. So just uses his feet and works it down towards Long On. Picks up a single off Engelbrett. 5 off the over. Doyle is 15 from 10. Smith is 35 from 38. It's Doyle on strike. Engelbrett to Doyle. Gives himself plenty of room on the offside. Cuts firmly. Backward of point. It's fielded by Gully. But they pick up a single. Good running there by the Sutherland captain to pick up the 1 run.
It's been a handy little contribution from Doyle here as well. Just what they needed, a little partnership.
Engelbrett into Smith. Tries to paddle. Almost plays a vertical sweep shot, doesn't he? Down towards final leg, but doesn't connect. And it's ruled a wide. So another run to the total. 7 off the over. It's been probably a few too many sundries that St George were hoping not to concede. This is short, wide, outside off stump. It's thumped with a cut shot. Straight to the man, though, at deep cover. And Steve Smith moves along to 37. 4 for 101. And that last over conceded 8. So another expensive over. Engelbrett, unfortunately, has been expensive after 2 overs completed for the leg spinning all-rounder. Plays for ACT New South Wales Country in the Toyota Futures League competition. He has the figures of none for 18. So unfortunately, not as tidy as he probably was hoping for. And I think this match was won by Sutherland. They're not quite there yet, but they're almost there. 12 to win from 24 balls, 4 overs. They should do this very comfortably. And I think the victory was established by their bowling efforts and efforts in the field. This one's short on the hips of Smith. He's running very hard. He's looking for 2. They're coming back. They'll get there. Good piece of running by the Sutherland captain. 2 more to the total. Just 10 to win now. So the deficit's almost down to single figures.
And you've got to also say that it was a handy toss to win this morning. But saying that, you've still got to, if you win the toss and the conditions are in your favour, you've still got to perform. And it was a very good Sutherland bowling performance. Obviously, the opening bowlers as well. But we mentioned 16 overs of slower style bowling. It really made it hard for St George.
And St George have only used the 1 slower bowler
Correct.
in Engelbrett. So that's perhaps a blow for them. A quick single taken by Smith out into the offside. Plays with soft hands and gets through. Safe and sound. 4 for 104. Yes, only the 1 slower bowler used by St George throughout its 20 overs with ball in hand. And Engelbrett's only bowled the 2 overs. So St George have been very much reliant on their changes of pace by their seam attack. Plenty of medium paces used by Stapleton. In he comes again. He's back into the attack from the Paddington end this over, and that one's just deflected with a late cut down towards third man, and Doyle picks up a single. So they're now cantering towards the victory, aren't they, David?
It certainly looks that way at the moment. One thing for mine, I suppose, the Tom Ortiz has only bowled 2 overs. Again, he's been their strike weapon. Have they left it a bit late to bring him back on?
Perhaps that is the case. In comes Stapleton to Smith, and Smith playing late as well. With a vertical bat this time down towards point, and he picks up a quick single. So just the 7 to win now. 5 runs conceded in this over so far. I think St George are now resigned to the fact that they've lost this particular fixture. And they'll be looking to get their revenge next week on the second Saturday of the Norm O'Neill Cup clash. This one's hit the pad, but looks as though it's going down the leg side. Smith thought about a quick single while Stapleton was appealing, but they decided against it. Yeah, so it looks as though St George will go down here at the SCG in the Sixers Conference Final. They'll look to get revenge at the completion of round 8 in the McDonald's New South Wales Premier Cricket Competition, where the two sides finished their Norm O'Neill Cup clash. Only a few overs were possible yesterday due to the storm activity at Percival Oval. That one's driven firmly out of the covers. 2 dots to finish the over, so a tidy end to that over for Stapleton, and he just gives St George a glimmer of hope here with 3 overs remaining, but just the 7 runs to win. So it should be a fairly easy equation for Sutherland from here, particularly with Steve Smith at the crease. He's 41 not out from 43 balls, so that's perhaps a reflection of the wicket, David.
I think so, yes. It seems like it hasn't been decking around as much as maybe in the first few overs of St George's innings. Obviously hard new ball, fresh. Obviously the cover would have been rather fresh when the covers came off this morning. But Sutherland did bowl well. They fielded excellently. There was only 1 or 2 little fumbles in their fielding display. Really put the pressure back on the St George side.
So Tom Ortiz back into the attack now from the Randwick end. Full, short of a length in fact, and driven down the ground by Smith. Down towards mid-on. Picks up a single. 6 to win now. 5 to tie. Plenty of balls in hand for St George, for Sutherland rather.
We're going to see another undefeated side go out at the conference final stage.
That's correct. Sutherland beat Sydney last weekend, who were undefeated, and St George were undefeated. That one's pulled, hoiked up and over the onside infield, and 4 more to the title. A good boundary there by Doyle, good piece of batting, smart play. Saw there was no men out in the deep on the onside, went with the pull shot and just heaved that over the top to find the boundary rope out in front of the Bill O'Reilly stand. So just 2 to win now for Sutherland, and they can bring it up with another boundary. Ortiz with the figures of 1 for 16 into his 3rd over, and just the 2 to win now for Sutherland. Ortiz, plenty of men inside the circle now for St George. They look for quick singles. He plays defensively. Backward of point does Doyle. 4 for 111. St George earlier posted 112. And 113 was set for victory. And Sutherland just need another 2 to win. Ortiz over the wicket, wide on the crease, and that's well wide of off stump. In fact, it's that wide. It's ruled a wide by the umpire. So scores are now level. It was a superb bowling effort by Sutherland. St George were restricted to 8 for 112. And in reply, Sutherland have wasted no time and kept ahead of the required run rate throughout. Ortiz to Doyle, drives down the ground but can't beat mid-off, so scores remain level. So far, just the 6 runs off this over.
Very composed Sutherland performance, you'd have to say, in all. And also, no Shane Watson as well. Imagine if he was in this side today.
That's right. In comes Ortiz to Doyle. Catches the bottom of the bat and can't beat the infield there on the offside. So 1 ball left in this 18th over. And Sutherland just need the single run to secure a place in the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup final tonight under the lights of the SCG, where they will play either Penrith or Sydney University. In comes Ortiz to Doyle, drives out through the covers, pierces the gap, he'll find the boundary rope, and that's victory for Sutherland. So a fine, polished victory there by the Sutherland side, and they again beat an undefeated side in this tournament. They beat Sydney last week, who were undefeated, and they've beaten St George, who were unbeaten heading into this Sixers Conference final. And Sutherland are the Sixers Conference champions of the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup, and they've booked a place in the tournament final tonight under the lights of the SCG. And Doyle, he brought up the win in style with a fine cover drive through the gap on the offside, and it raced away to the boundary rope. So final score for Sutherland, 4 for 116 in reply to St George's total of 8 for 112 posted earlier. And just racing through the batting card for you, Sarukas out for 11, Biviano for 11, Smith top scored with 42 from 44 balls, Brown bowled by Den Hartog for 20. It was a crucial partnership there between Smith and Brown to set the chase in the direction it needed to go. Austin Waugh played on for 2, bowled by Francis, and Tom Doyle was unbeaten on 25, a very handy 25 from 19 balls. And the wickets were shared for St George. Unfortunately, not enough runs on the board for the Saints. Tom Ortiz 1 for 21, Peter Francis 1 for 26, Den Hartog 1 for 6, and a superb piece of fielding by Adam Waitley to run out Peter Sarukas. Your summation, David McDonald.
A thoroughly deserved win there for Sutherland. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a handy toss to win. I think whoever won the toss would have sent the opposition in. But again, you've got to bowl to the conditions, and Sutherland did that very well. They fielded very well, and unfortunately, St George couldn't get partnerships going. Curtis Patterson, vital wicket. He was looking ominous for St George. And I think that was a game changer when they got him out for 26 off 19 balls. John O'Rose then had to re-steady the ship, and he was looking pretty good as well after a slow start, 20 from 31. And then when he got out, the wheels basically fell off the St George innings, and in the end, just certainly wasn't enough in this competition today.
Well, thank you for that, David. And as you mentioned, Curtis Patterson, the key wicket for Sutherland, top scored for St George, and it was a screamer of a catch by Austin Waugh that dismissed the Blues number 3. But it's Sutherland that progress. They're the Sixers Conference champions in the Kingsgrove Sports T20 Cup. So not only do they book a place in the final later this evening, but they also book a place now at the inaugural National Premier T20 Championships in Adelaide, held in March, from March 5 to 6. So a double bonus there for Sutherland. They're the Sixers Conference champions. Please rejoin us in a little while for the Thunder Conference final, where Jack Clifton and Steve Green will take you through the first innings of that match, and then David McDonald and I, David Gavin, will rejoin you for the run chase in that particular fixture. Thank you for your time, and hope you can join us for the next particular final.